Yes. Okay.
Everybody.
How come it feels like it's summer out there now? I don't know. It's 38 degrees. It feels so warm.
Yeah. I went out there earlier today in my snow gear, and I was sweating while I was shoveling snow.
Yeah, well, that can do too. That can do it. Had an MRI yesterday. Found out that the problem with my tingling in my arm is from C4, 5, 6, and 7 in my neck. It all stems from the neck stiffness.
Yeah.
So everything seems to emanate from my neck.
I mean, at least they were able to narrow it down for you. At least
Well,
it's
you
only
know
one.
what? I went to a PT. I had an appointment the same day as the MRI. 2 hours
Yep.
later, after they had the MRI, the PT guy was already looking at it and stuff. So
Yeah.
he gave me a whole bunch of exercises to do, a lot of which I do already. So
Oh, good.
I'm glad it wasn't a major thing that I have. So I'm just thankful to God it wasn't worse.
Yep.
Could have been a lot worse. You know what? I'm supposed to be Eleanor's birthday party Saturday, and they had to move it to Sunday because Abby's best friend just died of pancreatic cancer. 65 years old. Tell you, cancer is an epidemic here. We got to eat better. I think we have to eat better, and we have to exercise more. I don't think we're eating right.
Yeah.
I think I went to FoodWorks today. I just used the time to go to Old Saybrook today, and I got these soups. There's not a drop of salt, and I checked my blood pressure. After having one, it was 116/62. After having a quart of soup, guys. It's unheard of. You try to have chicken soup. You tell me what your blood pressure is. I once did an experiment. It was 152/100. You know what? That
We
stuff
don't
will kill
have
you.
that too much problem with that.
That stuff will kill you.
Yeah.
Hate to say it, but if you have high blood pressure, you shouldn't be having chicken soup every day. They say, "Oh, chicken soup's Jewish penicillin, good for a cold, whatever." You know what? You better watch how much penicillin you take. Jewish penicillin, right, Arlene?
Right.
Hey, Marcy.
I'm serious about salty foods.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean,
Well, you look at deli meats. Deli meats are the same thing. There are so many chemicals pumped into deli meats.
well,
And then on top of it, you have all of the dioxin that's been gathering in the animal's tissues over its lifetime. And
you know what deli's good for?
dioxin is an inhibitor of the human immune system.
You know what?
So
Scott, cancer loves deli. If you like sugar, carbs, and deli, you're not gonna live long. Seriously. If that's what you have growing up, that was my diet growing up. My mother's friends, half of them I said died before they were 35. You want to have deli, salami omelets. I remember going to a funeral here years ago. One of our members' sons. When he died from, I said, "What were you eating?" He says, "Oh, they're having salami omelets every day." Well, I don't know how good it is, Scott, having salami omelets every day. Seriously.
it's not. That's why I'm a vegan now.
Well, I mean, it's a shame.
Yeah.
And
protecting all the animals every day. Yeah. But oof, we're trying to make up for what we did.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I look at it.
I had one foot in the grave. Had to
Well,
do something.
If I ask some of my naturopath friends, they're not vegetarians, but if you're having meat, you're supposed to have it antibiotic free and free range. So you know what? You can have all you want meat, but you have to really restrict, even fish. Someone told me the other day that they had a salmon die most of their life. They end up dying of cancer, 61 years old.
Yeah.
So I speak to a doctor.
We made a mess of our environment.
Yeah.
They say salmon's good fish oil. Yeah, but not every day, Scott. Salmon is a good source of fish oil, Arlene, but you not have to have it every freaking day, really. Maximum 2-3 times a week. And swordfish is the worst.
Well, and talking to Scott's dad, who's 91, right? 91, and he's up and around and kicking and angry that he's not faster than what he is. But he talks about when he was young and they were back in the rations and they could only have like this tiny piece of meat to split for their family. And that was it for like the week. And maybe next week get another one. So like it helps. It helps things in proportion, having things in proportion, not all.
It depends on what you're made of. Frank Himmelstein's father, Mayor Himmelstein, he lived long and he was having steaks every day. So to say that it's bad, yeah, for certain people. Yeah. Frank Himmelstein's father lived in his 90s and he had steak every day. So try to figure that one out, Scott. I have friends that one less thing.
I'd say on the free range discussion, it depends on where that range is, because
right.
You could have free range beef and free range chicken a mile down the road from an industrial park.
That's
right.
True.
And when all of those industrial chemicals fall out onto the field and the animals are eating that for their whole lives, that's when you get high concentrations of dioxins and you start getting autoimmune disorders and stuff like that. So, it's the problem is anything that's above the bottom of the food chain is just concentrating all of the chemicals that we've thrown out into the world, whether it's pesticides, herbicides, insecticides, mercury, industrial chemicals, things like that.
Well, I tell you, to me, it's a shame that I'm supposed to go to Eleanor's house for her party, and now it's got to be moved to the next day, which I don't have time to go. I have a play practice. Why? Because Abby's best friend just died, 65 years old, from pancreatic cancer, from eating a shitty meals her whole life. You know what, guys? There's no guarantee in life. As we say sometimes in the Kabbalah class, God tells every one of us when we're born, we don't know it, but how long we're going to live. So if you're gonna, I have a friend that's a vegan. I just spoke to him yesterday. He's doing terribly in life. He's a vegan. He's got diabetes. He can't even get out of the house. He's so bad.
A lot of it is genes and luck. I realize that it's.
Yeah, I agree.
But a lot of it is what your genes are and how lucky you are, or unlucky, as the case may be.
Well, you look back 70 years in the past and folks were walking around downtown New York City while cars are driving by spewing out leaded exhaust. Right? That wasn't that long ago.
Right.
70 years ago, and folks are ingesting lead from the air, and you can't say that didn't have an effect on folks' children.
Sharon, welcome, Sharon.
And I'm not disagreeing with this conversation, but look how many people are living into their 90s, and how much longer our lifespans are. That's due to a lot of different things, but still.
I'll tell you what killed my relatives in their 70s, and this is something that you have control over. STRESS. All my ancestors that died in their late 60s and 70s, it was because of stress, not necessarily the diet. These people were so stressed out. My grandfathers that survived the Depression had to deal with spouses who were sick. You know what? My uncles that had to deal with friends that were dying, and they were so stressed out. People that were coming to them for money constantly. My uncles died at Johnny, Johnny from my Friday night service. Yeah, Johnny's father died at 46, cancer. My uncle, his brother, 47, Aaron. These people were so stressed out in their lives over money, and it's just amazing how much stress that these both people. You know what? I think one thing I should learn, Arlene, from this is you can't try to do too much. I mean, we put that pamphlet together. That's a nice thing. But these uncles of mine were trying to do so much. They were working so hard. They never took a vacation day in their lives. Working. You know what? They never had time off for themselves. And in the end, they died very young. I go to the cemetery, I cry every time I see it. It says 46 and 47 years old. And those were my my father's closest friends. When those people died, my father was never the same. Those were who he confided in most. My father didn't have many friends, but when he lost those two, my father was not easy for him. Those were his closest associates were his brothers. And then sit next to one little thing before we start, to sit next to my grandmother at the funeral and to watch her reaction when Rabbi's talking about her sons, that was the pits. To have to sit next to my grandmother and hold her hand, that was. And you know what happened after that? She died from dementia after that happened. After her sons died, she couldn't take it anymore. So, Arlene, I think stress did a lot of my relatives in. My grandmother, my grandfather Morris died from sepsis at 68. My grandfather Morris, who died after his wife died a month later from the stress of not having like what Marty's going through. That's why we need Marty to be good to Marty. My uncle couldn't take it. My grandfather, a month after his wife died, he had Lou Gehrig's, one of the first people to have Lou Gehrig's. He took care of her all the time. Once he had no one to take care of, he just dropped dead of a heart attack. 71 years old, right in his step on his house in Borough Park in Brooklyn, 49th Street. So I think we all owe people that are going through stress. We have to make them feel that we're all in it together. As Scott writes in all our flyers, right? We have to build a sense of community and family. Sharon, do you agree with me that a lot of people feel like they're on their own in life? They're not part of a group. They're not part of a class group. They're not part of a little bit of an extension of the synagogue through our studies. Do you feel that in life that many people are disassociated with religion because they have nothing to do with their synagogue family?
I'm one of them.
Yeah.
So that's how I felt with B'nai Israel. You know, people think that I'm a member of B'nai Israel, and yes, logistically, I am, but I'm not a member emotionally. I'm a member of Ahavath Achim, even though I'm not a member of Ahavath Achim. I feel more a member of this synagogue than any other synagogue I've ever had, even Brothers of Joseph, which was my parents' synagogue. But I never felt part of it. My parents did. So I can tell you firsthand what it feels like. And it's funny that I'm walking in on this conversation or zooming in on this conversation because I've been having some medical issues lately, and I am totally one of those people that you're talking about who's just totally stressed out, but I'm aware of it and I'm doing something about it. I'm pulling back on many things. So, I'm sorry that you lost so many people at an early age, but I can feel it. I can feel it happening, and I don't want it to happen right now. So I've started pulling back. This is one of the few things that I still do.
You know what? I got to tell you, I was going to save this for the Kabbalah class, but since we're turning to number 47 and 151 about prayer, I have to tell you something I just studied with my rabbi last night. He said, like himself, Orthodox people die very rarely from heart attacks. Why? Can you guess why? Why do you think, guys, that Orthodox men have a much lower risk of heart attacks than non-Jewish men, non-Orthodox men?
Because the women do all the work.
I like that answer.
Look, I grew up in an Orthodox family. My father was a prince.
He didn't say that.
They leave it all to God, Rabbi.
He didn't say that, Arlie. I'm talking about there were no women on the
The
call.
nail on the head, right?
There were no women.
They leave it to God.
That's right. Boy, Rabbi, you really worked into a business here.
Oh, did I ever set myself up for that one? Scott,
That's okay. We still love you.
Scott, it has to do with something that men wear. What do you think it is? Men wear something that women don't usually wear.
Tefillin.
Tefillin. He said, because, Scott, you can tell me the scientific, it makes sense. He says, because you wrap the straps, and I always, you see men after wearing tefillin, there's marks on their arms, right? He says, because you're working and controlling sort of the blood flow on and off, that it's sort of strengthening your blood system, and because of that, the people who put on tefillin every day very rarely have a heart problem. Scott, can you believe? Is that something that's believable?
I think it's more of the act than the mechanics of it. I think if you're putting on tefillin every day, you're making the time to put on tefillin every day, and if you're Orthodox, you have your routine, and it does not diverge from that routine, and everything else is secondary to that routine. So, everybody has that clear understanding that, you will be putting on your tefillin, you will be praying 3 times a day or more, and nothing's going to interfere with that. So the demands for a man like that are probably less than the demands that most other men would put on themselves, right? Because they're putting so many demands on themselves spiritually, and that's something that's healthy for the mind and healthy for the body, being able to say no to all of these other things so that you can fulfill these commandments.
Well, I wanted to add one thing to you, Scott. That's great, but I want to add one thing. The reason I was upset about Karen Gambalotti's demise without praying for her is, listen, I just studied a week and a half ago, Barbara Bennon, who's a Catholic, talking about how when we pray, God hears our prayer and God acts on our prayers. She's not even Jewish. Talking about Jewish prayers in Hebrew, Misha Berach, the Kaddish she mentioned, those 2 prayers in a book written by one of the best energy healers in the world, probably. And she's Irish Catholic. And for her to say that, guys, and the fact is that I don't know about you guys, I felt helpless that I couldn't say one Misha Berach for Karen because I had no idea that she was sick. Arlene, what do you think of that? I know you're big into
Can I say something about that?
Go ahead, Marcy. Go ahead. You go.
We just saw on Facebook the person we've been praying for, Joy. She got good news with her cancer diagnosis. We've been praying for her for over a year.
Right. We have been praying for Joy. Yeah. Okay. So that's
it works.
So
it does
Arlene,
work.
do you believe what Marcy just said, Arlene? That it can work if you have the name?
I believe it. I believe that we pray for the person to be healed, but the healing could be different things. The healing could be good news, or it could be that you pass. But I think the praying either way helps because you're in God's hands.
And I have yet to have one person that I told them I was going to say healing prayers for them. I have yet to have one person say, no, don't do that.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
They are so appreciative that you want to take the time to help them heal. I have never had someone say, don't do that. Never.
Well, I've been praying for my niece for probably 8 years.
Right.
And she's never going to get better. I don't think she'll ever be cancer free, but she's had good news that her tumors have are reducing in size. So it's good news, and it's so.
And Darlene, she's lived 8 years with your prayers.
Yeah.
I mean, that is holy cow. If that isn't the truth of prayers helping people to heal, then I don't know what is.
Listen,
I mean, my friend Eileen Kaplan lived for 2 years with pancreatic cancer because I prayed for her.
And that's
most
a death
people
sentence.
Are gone in 3
Sharon,
weeks.
that's a death sentence. That my friend Sandy, my best friend growing up, his wife lasted 2 months with pancreatic cancer. It's not easy to last years with pancreatic cancer.
I prayed for Eileen and she lasted 2 years. That is almost unheard of with pancreatic cancer.
Yeah. Well, I told you what I studied with Chabad, that the Lubavitcher Rebbe himself said he was able to heal people. They asked him how he did it. He says, because I had their names, and he's using names for God. Okay, he's on a higher level than us. But he said, if you want someone to heal, you have to use their name. And not having Karen's name, I can say, yeah, we're praying for all those who are ill. But what do you guys think? Without having Netanya, her Hebrew name, with me, and or her parents' name, it's hard to pray. I know God knows what it is, but why do you think it is, Dan? Why do you think that God wants to know the name of the person? Why does God really need to know that who Karen is, or can't just read my thoughts? The people who knew that she was sick said they were praying in their hearts. They said they were praying in their hearts without saying the name.
Well, I mean, I think it's that one thing we've been talking about is when you do a good deed, right? It creates an angel, a good angel.
Right. We said that. Yeah.
Good things are going to happen, right? I think that's part of it. It's fulfilling all of the good deed, right? Instead of just blanketing and saying, help everybody who needs help. It's this specific person. It's a good deed specifically to go out to this specific person. And that hopefully, it's on God's ears, and that good angel is created and gets to that person,
Great.
You have to be specific, and you have to show that you care.
Mhm.
But if you don't know
It's
that
unfortunate
somebody
that we
is
didn't get
sick,
the opportunity to do that,
Yeah.
but
But that was Karen's choice.
Yeah.
I feel bad too.
exactly.
I feel bad too, because I believe in the power of prayer, and I
Mhm.
certainly believe it in groups. But it was her choice.
But Arlene, she was my
We don't know
gabbai.
why she made that choice.
But she was my gabbai for so many years, watching me pray for people. She was right next to me every Saturday morning. We didn't used to do it Friday night. We used to do it Saturday morning only.
Right.
But she used to be right by my side when we said the Mishaberach prayers.
It surprises me she didn't confide in you as the rabbi. It just surprises me.
Well, it doesn't.
I don't know who she is. I didn't know her at all, but it just surprises me that somebody that was so close to the synagogue,
But
usually they would confide in the
She was
rabbi.
a pretty private person.
yeah,
Mm.
okay. Let's look at her as pride. But what about all the people that are getting divorced? 4 couples in our synagogue that don't even consult me about it, Sharon. Why don't they tell me what's going on? Why do I have to find out from a friend of mine that they're getting divorced without anyone consulting me, Sharon? Why don't they consult me or
Rabbi,
let me
people
know?
have their reasons. Some
Right.
people are just extremely private. They don't want the word to get around that they're getting divorced, so they keep it very private. People don't know what goes on within 4 walls. You
Right.
can be
Or
out in
they've
the
made up their
community
mind.
and everything looks fine
Yeah.
with
Mhm.
couples.
Yeah, or they've made up their mind and they don't
Yeah.
want anybody trying to change their mind.
Right. Right. And you know what? And they could just say it's nobody's business but theirs too.
Right.
They could, Marcy, they could, but
Yeah.
I mean, nobody on this Zoom screen knows that Tom and I put a deposit down on a house in Colchester.
oh wow. Thank you for letting us know.
Okay? And
Okay.
it's a good thing nobody knew about it because we decided not to move.
Okay, so I understand
So
that.
what I'm saying is that we told nobody.
Mm-hmm.
I was aching to tell you guys, but I
Mhm.
said I'm not going to do it for the very reason that I didn't want people hawking me and saying, oh, you're putting a deposit down on another house. People just have reasons for wanting to stay private.
Mm-hmm.
And we
Well,
all
listen.
do things differently. How
Mm-hmm.
I feel about things and how I lead that part of my life and how religious I am. Someone else is different.
Mm-hmm.
But
And it's up to them. As much as sometimes I would like to, I cannot force my opinions on somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But Arlene, when I took this job here, I knew it was a private community. I could tell right away when Sharon was my only friend that's still on this call right now. But I knew back then when I was teaching Sharon and Tom Hebrew, I knew back then I could see the energy of the people. And I saw that people are going to be very private and they're not going to share with me too much. And I decided for the 29 years I'm here, that's acceptable to me.
Right.
I don't need to know everyone's business. It just makes it harder for me having to get involved in everyone's crap. So
Yeah.
they want to keep me,
Yes.
You know, if they want to keep me out of it, if they want to keep me out of the mix, Neil, right? That's okay. I mean, it's less stress for me to have to know the details, because once years ago when someone was telling me all the details, it's hard to swallow that too. About someone's telling me every single thing their wife did wrong. That's also tough.
From what I've seen, the people who want your help come to you and they go for it. They come to you, like you specifically. The people who want your help, Rabbi, are the people who come to you, and they come to you before it's a catastrophe, right? They come to you when it's a difficulty, right? And it's something that they can start working on and figuring out. The folks that you hear about who are getting divorced or other major problems, they're the folks who are beyond reconciliation anyways, right? If they've already decided to say the D word, right? They've gone down that path.
Yep.
They don't want anybody else deterring them from doing what they're going to do.
It's funny.
The folks who want to do well and who want to like fix things, right? They're going to come to you early on and say, you know, man, really wish my wife wouldn't break down the front door.
Every
It
day.
was only once. It was only once.
You know, the closest I got from one of these divorced couples is the wife calls me. I mean, she emailed me back. I emailed her our weekly stuff. And she says to me, oh, by the way, I live in Florida now, not in Connecticut. So I sort of got it from that. So I sort of got it that they're moving, that they live in Boca Raton, not in whatever town it's close to here. You know that town very well, Sharon. I'm not shocked they're getting divorced when they tell me they left town. They didn't mention anything about any husband or kids.
Well, we didn't
yeah.
know Aggadah tonight.
Well, this is the Aggadah I was going to cover is actually about using the verse in the Amidah about finding favor, that we should ask God to find favor, and how we should, when we pray, we have to pray with the right kavanah, and we have to have the right private thoughts before and after we pray. So I think we all know that it's like a meditation in motion, right? Before we pray, as we studied Kabbalah years ago, right? The old sages of old used to spend 1 hour before preparing themselves for prayer. So that's what we're talking about basically today, about getting ourselves ready for prayer, and it sort of led to what we're discussing about praying for other people, right? So we're talking here about the Mishaberach prayer. So we're saying how important it is to prepare ourselves. Like, for example, if I'm thinking about the Knicks trounced the Celtics last night. Okay, it so happens I was watching part of the game. But if I'm thinking about that before prayer, I'm thinking about how well Julius Randle played. I'm gonna go say, oh my God, he showed up the Celtics. I don't think that's the proper thoughts to have right before I'm going to ask God and petitioning for others for their health. What do you think, Scott? If I'm going to be harping on the fact that I'm a Knicks fan, I'm so happy that Julius Randle outshone the Boston Celtics. If that's on my mind, it shouldn't be on my mind as I'm preparing to pray to God to help heal people, finding a diversion in life, which is sports to me. Basketball is a nice diversion. I shouldn't be harping on the game. Instead, I should be harping on getting my mind ready for prayer, right?
Yep. So we used to have a saying, don't bring your boss a problem.
Yeah.
Tell your boss the problem, but bring him or her the solution.
Right,
And
exactly
I think it's
right.
the same thing with God. I think if you're not specific and you don't show you care enough, then why should God care?
Yeah.
Right? If you say, please heal the world, but you don't have anything specific in mind, and you don't have the will or the effort in you to do any of that, to even come up with a plan to ask something specific, then you're not really serious about it, and you're just going to get what you get.
Well, one last comment on the Aggadah. When I first came up here, it was 1995. When people asked me to pray, guess what they asked me to pray for?
Right.
The UConn women's basketball team.
Okay.
They asked me to pray
That's
for
right,
the UConn women. Neil,
1995.
I'm serious. They asked me to pray for the UConn women's basketball team.
It
That was
must have
the first
worked
year.
because 95 was a really good year.
That was the
Yeah,
first
I
year.
know. I know. Well, I'm not saying it helped, but I tried. They told me to pray for the Yukon women. I know. Since then, they've been great in basketball. It's not since I came up here. It was probably before that, Neil, right? That the Yukon
No,
women.
No, 95 was the first year.
Right, so it's my doing that I moved up here. I'm praying.
exactly.
Oh, it just so
Exactly.
happens for the last 29 years. Okay, 28 and a half.
So
Okay.
Gino had nothing to do with it.
Gino
It
No,
was
Gino-
you.
Hey, no, it was all Rabbi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Gino's calling me. Gino's calling me for prayers for his team.
Yeah.
I don't think that's happening. Let him be in his house in Manchester and pray there.
Hey, before we start, Scott,
Yeah. Okay.
I got your second email. I got
Okay.
your first one too. I just forgot about it. I mean, I said,
I
okay, I'm
wasn't-
gonna go do that. And
Yeah,
so
no
thanks
worries.
for the email. I have everything you want. I didn't think
Okay.
I had it. I don't have any of the paper stuff because I threw that all away, but I have all my documented files, which I will send to you.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking something we could send out with the quarterly newsletter. I don't know if there's any way that we could like insert an envelope in there, but I'm more than happy to buy a stamp addressed to the shul and a couple of rolls of stamps and a box of envelopes, if that's
Yeah.
anything that we could possibly do.
Let
How big do
me,
your envelopes have to be?
What's
How
that?
big do your envelopes have to be?
Probably just standard letter size.
Because I have a couple of boxes that I haven't
Wait.
used in years.
Okay.
All right.
Arlene, when did
I,
my Passover article by?
I thought I gave you a date, but I need it,
Yeah.
like, if you can give it to me next week, because
Okay.
I really I want to
Okay.
finish it up on time, and there's a
Okay.
couple things I'd like you to look at,
Yeah.
make sure they're correct before
Okay.
we send it out.
Yeah.
I'll send you the information, Scott.
Okay,
Our newsletter, it's not paid for by the synagogue because the synagogue will not pay for it. So usually we have either someone who volunteers to pay for it for a month, 2 months, 3 months.
Okay.
And no one has volunteered in the last couple of issues. So it's being paid out of a fund from
Sisterhood.
thank
right?
you, from Sisterhood. There's this Colchester Sisterhood is not
Not
functioning
viable, but
anymore,
they have funds.
but they have funds, and Goldie Leverant is in charge of those funds. And she is she makes the decisions of what it gets used for and making it a good decision.
How about if we start up the sisterhood again, like the men's club
I
started?
think we should. I think
like
a
to see
couple
that.
of you guys should. I think really.
I'd like
think
to
a
be
couple of
involved
you
in that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd
Well,
like
I'd
to
like
do
to see
that.
well, Arlene and Sharon can and Marcy and Deanna, could you want to do you want Scott, how should we work it? Should the women themselves approach Deanie on that and say we'd like to have one, or what's the best way you think? You
I'll come
leave
to a
out
meeting.
Deanie,
I would just-
Deanie's best.
I would just come together and decide what it is that you want to do, and then just take that to Deanie and say, this is what we
Okay.
plan on doing. And then she'll nod her head up and down and say, let me know how it works out.
Okay. So, because like
I
we
don't
did with
think
the
she'd
men's
be
club,
against it.
like we did with the men's club, we had it grew from the fact that one person wanted to have it. Then we talked to you, from Dean, from you to me to Elliot to Marty. It just went from one person to the other.
Okay, well, I'm talking to Arlene, to Dan, to.
Yeah, I know. And
I'd
I
love
think
to have it.
After you
and
figure
I
out what
think
you want to
Deanie
do,
I think Deanie
So-
would want one too.
After what?
I
after you
almost,
figure out what you want to do, just shoot it to me in an email, what your schedule looks like, whether it's like the first whatever month, right? And then I'll make sure it gets in the monthly flyer.
All right.
so Scott,
Yep.
have you received the newsletter in the mail?
Before we have.
Maybe
gotten it.
once, yeah,
once.
once. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
so it's just folded with some tabs. So I'm not sure that what you want to do would work with that. And
Okay.
and Goldie does that. We have them
Yeah.
printed and folded. Goldie tapes them and addresses them. So we'd have to go to like an envelope. And that would take, you know, I'm not saying it can't be done, but it wouldn't be easy. And then of course the postage would be more.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. I can just take what you have and I'll stuff it into an envelope with a.
I have
envelope,
envelopes.
and then-
Scott.
I'd
I
also
have envelopes.
like to
Sharon's got
connect with you. I'm
Yep.
hoping to go to Sabbath services this Saturday.
Okay.
And talk to you a little bit about it because I'd like to give you a little background. I hope
Yep.
you can resurrect it and make it work, and I'd be glad to help. But I think you should have just a little background going into it.
Yep.
What time
Yeah.
is Shabbat services?
10,
10.
10.
10?
10
Yep.
o'clock right now.
You know what? There's so much going on. It's hard to figure out what he's putting out with these weekly sheets. Everyone's going to get it tonight. The weekly's all finished. It's just a matter of me sending out after class. But you'll have.
I love your weeklies.
Absolutely. Absolutely
I
do.
love it. I really do.
Good.
So I don't want you to think you're doing it for naught.
Well, I think a lot of people love it. I think having a weekly.
Oh yeah, it's wonderful.
But
It's
having a
wonderful.
week, and it has the link in it. I can't tell you how people forget the link every week. They say, "Oh, the link. What's the link?" Oh,
I
it's in
just used it. I just
That's
used
what
it
I
to get on
do too.
tonight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just
I
go to
use.
that. Yep.
It's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna we added a quote of the week. By the way, Scott and I decided I put a quote in. I felt like we're putting a quote of the week. It's only like 6 words. I just figured we'd add that to it, and we decided after this week, because of the Torah thought that's popular, I'm going to put a last paragraph is going to be, how can you apply the Torah thought to your personal lives? What do you think of that?
That-
one, guys?
That would be exceedingly relevant.
Yes. Okay. Yes. We
If you
discussed.
do the same thing like you do when in the 8 o'clock class, that's really meaningful.
Yeah.
Here's the
Yeah.
here's the Torah portion.
Yeah.
Do this
Right.
during the week, or try to do this, or
I thought that's what we were going to do. I thought that's what the Kabbalah was about, that we were going to talk about the Torah portion.
Oh, we
Yes.
did. We started with that. We're going to do that tonight. But I'm saying we went with Jennifer for 4 weeks. We went to the Hebrew
Which was
alphabet.
great. That was really great.
It was a diversion, but I think it was a
Yeah.
good.
it was great.
Oh, by the way, Scott and I talked about this. I want to send Jennifer flowers from FTD, or Scott's got a discount. So if you guys want to chip in, let us know.
Do you have her address?
You
I
have
do.
Arlene has.
You
it.
I
have
have
it?
her address.
I don't know if I even have her new address. I may
Arlene-
ask you for it, Arlene.
I have her, Scott. I'll email it to you, Scott.
Okay.
Do you want it too, Sharon?
Is it East Amherst, New York?
No, it's Williamsville.
Okay, yeah, can you email it to me? Because
Yeah.
I have Holston Parkway, and I think that's David and Jennifer's house.
It's funny you
that
mentioned
they bought.
Williamsville is where the one who was handling my case with my car accident. Williamsville is where she lives. So every time I get Williamsville on my phone, Arlene, I didn't think of her. I think of the person from Geico.
Yeah, if you don't mind, Arlene, I'd really appreciate it if you would.
Absolutely.
That would be great. Because I
So-
think I have her and David's house. I think the address you have is her mom's house.
Okay,
Oh,
so by
okay.
the way, we are adding another class to our roster, and I've been working on it. When I get back from Israel, the first Shabbat of May, we're going to have a 6 p.m. We're going to have a meditation class on the Torah portions surrounding my bar mitzvah portion. So we're going to have a 6 to 6:30 a meditation class, and I've been working hard on it to have a meaningful meditation class.
You're gonna
the
do
one-
it on Shabbat? Because the
What-
days are getting longer, so you're gonna keep doing it on Shabbat?
Not when we have touch about. We don't have touch about.
Okay.
But yeah, but it's not going to interfere with the touch. But the thing is, I got the Kripalu, the great yoga center in the Berkshires. I got a catalog. It's interesting. I was reading through a few classes, and one of them was a 5-day silent retreat. You got to pay $1,100 to sit for silence every day for 7 hours a day. It's not going to be that type of thing. It's not going to be a.
I used to go to a retreat and we had the day of silence was Saturday. Nobody, you could not talk. It was great.
For a Jew not to speak for 7 hours a day is pretty hard, I think.
5 days would be a lot.
Funny, the
That would be a lot.
name is Marla Schwartz. So
Well,
I
you could
assume-
be on you could be on a 4-day darkness retreat like Aaron Rodgers.
Okay,
Marty's-
so we got to study in the name of Karen Gambalati, Natanya Bat Moshe.
I've got
I
70.
have 74B1 note 1. Is that what you have? And Marty was reading.
I'm
No,
on
we're starting a new-
75A1.
Starting a new mission.
How come-
Right.
How come I'm by the
I must have
Mishnah then?
missed last week.
How come I'm by the
75A1.
Mishnah then?
You
I'm by
weren't
the-
feeling good. You probably don't even remember being here.
You probably.
I have Mishnah 75A1.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where we
All
are.
right.
I got 75
That's
A1.
right.
My mistake. I'm sorry.
Shame.
Yeah, I just texted Marty. He's on his way.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, good.
75A1, got it. Oh, and Rabbi, the reason I couldn't read Aggadah the other week was because I had the wrong volume.
Oh, really?
I have both volume 1 and 2, and I was
Oh.
trying to look for it on volume 1. Go figure. I wasn't finding it.
Do I have
See
to
where you
get-
might not.
do I have to get reminders that the class is on Tuesday at 6:30 Talmud to people, Neil?
What?
Do I have to send reminders the day of the class to remind people that Talmud's at 6:30 and that
No,
it
you
is
send-
Tuesday? That it is Tuesday. I know it's snowing, but it is Tuesday.
It is, definitely.
I
No, the
don't
Monday,
think
the
I
thing you
did.
send out on Monday works.
I sent it out that I would be at class because I'm not going to Shelton yet. I sent it out.
That's
because,
right. You were supposed to go to Shelton.
Got
today.
that far.
Right. Anyway, okay, so let's start. Marty will be on in a minute. Okay. The following mission what's the prohibition of a law for seya. Okay, so lo yomar adam lechavero. A person shouldn't say to his fellow this. Alvini borchitin. By the way, Neil, are you the lead up guy with notes again?
I guess I seem to be doing it regularly.
Okay. We need an engineer to start us off. Okay.
Yes, Neil's a good engineer.
Yes, exactly. We
That's
have great
true.
engineers in this class. I must say, some of my favorites. Okay. A person may say to his fellow, Alvini borkitin, lend me a core of wheat, and I'll give you back a core after the harvest, at the threshing season. Okay, Neil, you're up with note 9 to start.
Not 9. Oh, where are we? Oh, this is a simple case of a loan of a seah for a seah, a bushel for a bushel. It is forbidden to make such a loan because there is a possibility that in the interim, the price of the produce will increase and the seah repaid will then be worth more than the seah lent. Because of this possibility, the rabbis categorically forbade such loans, even when there is only a remote chance that the produce will increase in value. Indeed, it is unusual for produce to increase in value from the time of sowing until the time of threshing. Nevertheless, our Mishnah prohibits such a case. See Tosafos. Of course, there can be no question of biblical interest because the interest here was not prearranged. On the contrary, they arranged for the same amount to be returned, a seah for a seah. Nevertheless, it is forbidden rabbinically and constitutes avak ribis. See Ritva. It should be pointed out that the prohibition of a seah for a seah is not limited to produce. The loan of any commodity in which the borrower consumes the commodity and returns other good of the same kind is forbidden. This is as opposed to loaning an article for its use in which the borrower returns the item itself to the lender, which is permitted. Such loans are not known as halacha, but rather shalacha. I hope I did that right. Everything besides local currency is regarded as a commodity. Thus, to lend an amount of foreign currency for repayment of the same amount constitutes a loan of a seah for a seah and is also forbidden. Money of the local currency, of course, is not included in the prohibition of a seah for a seah. However, at first sight, the problem encountered with the commodity loans is that the commodity might increase in price, seems to be applicable to money loans too. By deflation, money could increase in value due to the fact that it obtains a greater purchasing price. However, legally, this reason does not hold because money is regarded as a standard of value, and all increases and decreases are attributed to goods. Thus, by deflation, money does not increase in value, rather is the price of goods that has declined. Wasn't there a thing that we read where you couldn't repay a new coin borrowed with an old coin because the old coins weren't worth as much?
There was talking about
Yeah.
about the weight of the coin. So if you have like a gold
Yeah,
coin, a
the
new
old
gold
coins
had more mass to it than the old gold coin.
Yeah. So I'm not sure I buy into this money does not count in the seah for a seah. I suppose, of course, you could demand the equivalent money, but nonetheless, it's the general case I'm not too sure about.
I'm with you, Neil. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I agree. Marty, we just started note 9. We just started the Mishnah on 75A1.
Yeah, I'm there. I'm with you.
Just want to make sure.
I understand not paying interest, and we certainly have discussed it enough, but if you ask to borrow a bushel of wheat and you'll repay it when the crop comes in, I don't see what's wrong with that. I mean, I understand the value of the commodity may change, but really, what difference does that make? If you know up front that might happen and you need that bushel of wheat now, and the other person's okay with it.
We have been talking about that for weeks now, where we've asked basically the same question. Why? I mean, it could go up, it could go down. This is why the commodity market in Chicago is there. So
Yeah.
it is equally likely that if you were to borrow a bushel of wheat over, let's say, every year for 4 years, half the time it'll go up, half the time it'll go down, and you're breaking even.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I agree with you, but it's been, I don't know, the last bunch of weeks.
I just can't get my head around it as to why that was so important. I can understand rebus in certain situations, but if you've made an agreement and you're knowledgeable about it, I have a hard time with it.
Well, I agree with you.
I think this goes back to the fence around the Torah theory.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Probably.
So, the fact that rebus is so tightly associated with Cain and Abel.
Right.
Okay.
So I think I think because of the gravity of the situation, the gravity of rebus, that's why we're talking about it so much and dissecting it so much.
Yeah.
And that fence around the Torah so that avak rebus prevents us from violating biblical rebus. I agree. If I borrow a bag of flour from you today and tell you in 6 months I'll give you a bag of flour back,
Well,
okay with that. But
I mean, if I asked you to loan me $10 for a month, whatever that $10 bill is worth today may be worth more or less in a month. So if it's worth over $10 at the end of the period, do I pay you $10.20? I think this is all. I think it's a very interesting discussion. I'm fascinated by this.
No, it is. It is.
I just don't always can't always. I can't even find a word to describe it.
Wrap your head around it.
Yeah. I just can't. Exactly right.
The problem is that for the most part, we think, it's our bias to think of today, right?
Right.
when we think about, a dollar for a dollar, we're thinking about a US, greenback, right?
Yeah.
And that's not the case. 2,000 years ago, it was a hunk of metal that was worth a certain amount of money. And as it gets worn down, it's not anymore. But there's an interesting thing. Steinsaltz has notes in here that actually agrees with what you said about it doesn't make sense based upon our earlier learnings. It's contrary.
Oh.
It says the Gemara above notes that the prohibition of a seah for a seah is not consistent with other laws discussed in this chapter. For example, the rabbis were very lenient about fixing a price, permitting a buyer to pay in advance for produce from a merchant who had none in stock, provided that it was readily available as an established market price, even though the price was expected to rise. The Gemara explains that the rabbis were lenient in this case because the buyer does not really gain anything by paying in advance, since either party could immediately buy the produce at the current price. In the case of the seah for a seah, by contrast, the rabbis forbid the loan, even where the parties have no particular reason to expect the price to rise. Although here too, the lender receives back the same quantity he lent and does not really gain anything. The Gemara explains that the rabbis were very lenient where the transaction was basically a sale, but where it was basically a loan, as in the case of a seah for a seah, they were more strict. So that's what they're doing. They're differentiating between a loan and a straight trade. That's the difference.
The closest thing I can think of today is it's called is it a CSV or something? But there you can buy from prior to the season, an individual can buy from a farm a certain amount of product for a certain price. But really, you have no idea, the crop could fail. I don't think you get your money back.
We do it all the time.
The crop could be weak.
We do it all the time. Think heating oil, right?
Yeah.
We buy early because we were trying to lock in a price that's going to be beneficial to us for the whole season.
Yeah.
Right.
And clearly, we don't know. We're betting against ourselves, but the price could go up, the price could go down, but we wouldn't lock it in unless we thought that the price was going to go up. And the seller wouldn't lock it in unless he thought that there was a chance that it would go down.
Yep.
Right. So in either case, it's not kosher. Right?
Can you just, this might be a really stupid question, but
there are no stupid questions.
What do you mean, stupid?
Well, I'm trying to understand what you guys are talking about.
Aren't we all?
I'm trying to bring it forward.
And we all just pretend.
Today's day. Is this the same kind of a theory where you purchase a commodity today and then 2 weeks later it goes on sale? The same thing that you paid a higher price for, the actual, again, you're hedging you're hedging against that if you buy a pair of pants today, that those pants might not go on sale in a week or two, even though they're the same pants, and you've now paid more money than you would have paid had you waited 2 weks. Is that kind of the same as what you're talking about?
I think what you're saying is a good question, but I think it's different because back then there were no sales, right? It was the fair market value.
That's true.
So what we're worried about is, or what the Talmud, what the rabbis are worried about is that the fair market value is going to change over time. So you enter into an agreement at one point and the fair market value changes and somebody gains an advantage from that. And that advantage may be ribis.
Yeah, but I don't think sales are, again, as Marty said, I don't think they had sales in those days. And I think that you cannot, I don't think you can equate a sale in 2 weeks for what you have now. I mean, right now, I think when we go to Ted's, they look at what we buy and everything goes on sale the next week.
Yeah. But you can equate it with a drought would be similar thing. You know, you're
Yeah.
buying wheat up front and you're going to pay this price for it. And then the crop's a failure.
I mean, putting it in their terms, right? There's a lot of reasons why the fair market value would change. You know, perhaps as the produce gets older, the value goes down because it may be the type of produce that everybody buys at one time a year, like, you know, grapes for wine or whatever. And then, it has a chance of spoilage after a period of time. So the value is going to go down. It has nothing to do with sales or anything else.
I mean, one of the things we've been talking about is assuming that it goes up. But again, we keep saying it's just as equally likely to go down. You could have a price go down. It's a marvelous growing year. Wheat is a glut on the market. The price goes down.
Not
So-
that different from oil.
No, not at all. In fact, not even slightly.
And there is
Okay.
halacha related to this we could talk about later, but right now, we're not up to the point yet where we can discuss the halacha, the law.
Okay. All right, that was what, 9?
No, it
9.
was-
That was 9. Yeah, number 9.
Long
number
time
9.
ago already.
Oh,
But that was a good one. Good discussion.
Aval Omer Lo
low.
says to him this: Halvini ad shevo b'ni. Lend me a core of wheat until my son comes to unlock my own wheat. Well, ad she'emtza mafteach. That's modern Hebrew for key. Until I find a key, number 10, Neil.
Since the borrower has other wheat in his possession at the time of the loan, although it is temporarily inaccessible, the loan is permitted. This is the condition of yesh. He has the goods in his possession. It is deemed as if the lender immediately acquires the other wheat, and consequently, if its value increases, it is though the lender's own wheat increases, and there is no ribis involved. Although in actual fact, the lender does not acquire the wheat because he has not performed a kinyan on it, nevertheless, for the purpose of permitting more avak ribis, such an acquisition is sufficient. Now, note that it is not necessary that the borrower eventually give the same wheat that he hadn't stocked to the lender. He is at liberty to eat it or sell it and later return the lender different wheat because the lender did not really acquire the wheat. See below in the Gemara, note 15. So, okay.
So as much
Oh.
as Bava Metzia talks to ribis, I mean, we've been beating ribis to death for some time.
This entire book.
Yeah, right. I mean, it just shows you how important it is to the rabbis as far as what the Torah teaches us, how important ribis is. So that's one thing. But what's the other thing it's teaching us is that this whole idea of I lost it. The acquisition, the kinyan. So a kinyan is also so critical in any kind of sale or any kind of trade or any kind of acquisition. The kinyan matters, and there's a whole slew of types of types where types or ways that you can actually acquire, but there has to be an actual acquisition that occurs. So that to me, that's significant, and some of it is lost in all this discussion.
They
Yeah.
also, you assume that if he's just waiting for his son to come with the key or something, that this will happen relatively quickly. It's not like we're going to pay back in 6 months when anything had happened. You're talking potentially a day or maybe a week, and it can't change at all or significantly, certainly, in that time frame.
Right.
I think it also speaks to what we talk about all the time, doing the right thing. And this is a key area to do the right thing in, not to cheat someone, either consciously or unconsciously. So it's what we always talk about, doing the right thing and being respectful of others.
And remember, it's always the buyer or the weaker or
Right.
the needier that's
Yeah.
always looked out for more often than not in halacha, Torah law. It's always looking at,
Yeah,
the Torah says you can't put a block in front of somebody. I forget the exact words, Rabbi will know, but
Can't
Yeah.
beat them when they're down, right?
yeah,
exactly.
you can't block somebody from getting to where they're going.
Right.
But on the other hand, who's it talking about? It's talking about the weaker person, the person who's got to get there.
the person who can't defend themselves as easily.
Yeah, yeah. Which is heartening.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Number 10.
We can't put any stumbling
was 10.
block. Yes, actually, no. The Hillel prohibits it. 11.
Hillel does not rely on yesh lo as a basis for permitting loans of a seah for a seah. The halacha follows the Tanna Kama, as repeatedly mentioned in this chapter, that yesh lo is in fact grounds for permitting commodity loans. 11.
So, similarly, Hillel says on another point, he say, Lo taveh isha b'cher lechaverta. A woman may not lend a loaf to her friend to be repaid with another loaf. What? I said that until she assesses the value at the time of the loan. So what are they talking about here, Neil? The loaf.
Well, the loan of a loaf for a loaf for a loaf is, in Hillel's opinion, the same as a seah for a seah. Therefore, he asserts that it must be assessed at the time of the loan, and should the price increase, the borrower repairs only the original value.
Which is weird because we just said commodities are different, and now they're
Yeah.
saying that the finished product is not a commodity, even if it's food.
Yeah.
Okay.
And are we talking about something a little different here? You know, I borrow a cup of sugar from you, and what if I only return a half cup, or I can only return a half cup? Or what if I do borrow a loaf of something? I'm not seeing the same rules in a way.
I think Hillel's got a different way of putting it, in that if I borrow a cup of sugar from you, and you tell me that this cup of sugar is $1.20 right now, and it takes me 6 months to come around to pay you back, and then that 6 months the price of sugar quadruples, right? I still owe you $1.20. So I could give you a quarter a cup of sugar, or I could give you the $1.20, and you'd probably be happier with the $1.20. I don't know.
You know, and I understand that, but it just seems like it's a different realm. This is like I read it as a friend or a neighbor asks for the loan. And to me,
I think Hillel's trying to equate it to, right, instead of yesh lo, where you're saying, hey, I have this, I just can't get to it right now, but I'm going to get it right back to you. This removes any reliance on time sensitivity.
Yeah.
So that, let's just turn this into a cash transaction right off the bat, right? Not like a neighborly thing, not like doing the nice thing, right? But like if I'm a buyer and you're a seller, that sort of thing, or we're two sellers, right? Let's just turn this into a cash transaction so that there's no question of whether this is a seah for a seah or not.
Actually, that's a good way to look at it.
Okay, I would buy into that.
Okay.
That was 12.
Number 11, 12. So, Shema Yukru Chitin. Perhaps we will become more expensive. Benimtu Ba'ot Lidei Ribbit. Result parties will be found to have come to a violation of the laws of ribis, again, interest. 13.
This represents Hillel's opinion, but the other sages disagreed with him and held that the prohibition of a seah for a seah does not apply to small loans of food to a neighbor. Even if the
Yes.
condition yeshlo is not satisfied, the Gemara will explain why. Thus, our Mishnah records two issues that were points of dispute between Hillel and the sages. Firstly, the sages ruled that a yeshlo is grounds for permitting loans of a seah for a seah. And secondly, that small loans of food to a neighbor are permitted in all events. Hillel ruled stringently in both cases.
That's, I'm getting lost here somewhere, because if I borrow a cup of sugar from somebody, I'm going to give them back a cup of sugar as soon as I have it. I'm not going to be thinking about how much it costs me. If I borrow a cup of sugar, I give back a cup of sugar. This is really
Well, they're talking about neighbors here.
baffling me.
If you're not
Well, that's
talking
what-
commercial transaction.
Yeah. And that's what you just read says, right? 13.
Yeah,
Okay,
We don't know what the answer is yet, but that's what that says.
Yeah, and I think that could go both ways. So you wouldn't mind, right? If I borrowed a cup of sugar from you and I got you that cup of sugar back, but
Right.
if I borrow another cup of sugar from you and then another cup and we start a running tab
Yeah.
and next thing we know, I owe you 50 pounds of sugar and I have no idea how I'm going to get it to you. And so basically you're out 50 pounds of sugar. There might be hard feelings there. And I think that's what Hillel is trying to avoid, even between neighbors, that, you know, I would gladly pay tomorrow for a cheeseburger today,
yeah,
right?
Humphrey Pennyworth,
Which is not kosher, but
details.
So the,
I
so
gotta
the
put the
halacha,
livestock to bed. I'll be right back.
the halacha is that Rima rules that it is permitted to lend a loaf of bread in exchange for another loaf of bread, even if they are not worth exactly the same amount, since people generally do not mind the difference. Gra notes that this is the opinion of Rashi, Tosfot, Ramban, Tur, and others, but that Rif and Rambam disagree. But that's the law. So the law is in favor of a loaf for a loaf. And that goes against Hillel. But there was still a disagreement.
I guess it doesn't matter what type of bread it is. Right?
Well, maybe it does, because
It's breads at
if I-
different prices.
I give, yeah, right. I give you a loaf of
Of white bread, and I
white,
give, I
or
give
if
you back.
if I give you a loaf of premium bread, and you hand me back a plain white loaf,
Yeah,
I would imagine there weren't so many options back then.
Right,
you're probably right.
right.
it's good that we can laugh about it today, but they probably didn't laugh about it 2,000 years.
No.
ago.
No, weights and measures were a big deal. That got people flogged at a minimum.
Rabbi, you with us?
I'm here.
Yeah, we
You ready?
can't see you.
Oh, my
Gemara
camera's
next week.
blocked. My camera's blocked. I gotta figure out how to get it back on. Okay. Shema Yukru Chitin. Perhaps wheat will become more expensive in Imsu, Ba'otli Ribbon. As a result, the parties will be found to have come to a violation of the laws of interest. 13. Last note on the page.
Just read.
Yeah, hang on.
We
Yeah, we
just
Yeah, I
did
just
that.
read this one.
We're on the
we just read
next page.
13.
We're on the next 75.
Yeah,
issues
we're
of
on
the Gemara.
14.
14?
Yeah,
No, we're
What,
starting
you
the
mean we
Gemara,
finished the
Rabbi.
Mishnah? We finished the Mishnah, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
start the
We
Gemara.
finished it, yeah.
Gemara elaborates on the conditions of having the goods in stock as it applies to loans of seah for seah. Rav Huna said this: Yesh lo seah lo ve'seah. Someone had one seah produce, may rely on it, may borrow one seah. Satayim lo ve'satayim. If he has two seahs, he may borrow two seahs on its basis. 14. Who's up next?
I'll do it. In
Okay,
short,
fine.
one cannot borrow more than one has in stock.
Wait a minute.
Sure.
Should have read that as one cannot borrow more than someone else has in stock. why am I borrowing say a whatever of wheat if I already have one?
Because you can't get to it right now.
Well, all right, okay,
That's the yesh lo
right,
concept.
okay, I'm with you.
Okay. Rav Yitzchak Omer, but Rav Yitzchak says this: Afilu yesh lo sa'ah. Someone has only one sa'ah, lova alen kamakorin. So lova is to borrow. He can borrow on its basis many korin, which is cores. What is a core?
A core equals 30 selah. In the opinion of Rav Yitzchak, possession of a minimal amount of the goods, say 1 seah, satisfies the condition of yeshlo, and he can borrow as much as he wants. Rashi explains that basically Rav Yitzchak permits borrowing only 1 seah against the seah the borrower has in his possession. However, after the loan of the 1 seah, the original seah does not serve as collateral for the debt. It is free from the lien, and the borrower may eat it or sell it and repay his loan from other wheat that he will obtain, as explained. Thus, the original seah is free to borrow yet another seah against it, and so on for the additional seahs ad infinitum. Accordingly, a loan of, say, a core can be regarded as being 30 smaller loans of 1 seah each, and each is permitted on the basis of the seah owned by the borrower, since the issue here is merely one of avak ribis. Rav Yitzchak relied on this reasoning for permitting the transaction. My head's spinning.
Yeah.
Avak
William,
ribis.
William, is your head spinning too?
Avak
Yeah.
ribis is the dust of ribis. It's secondary ribis. All forms of prohibited interest other than prearranged ribis are classified as avak ribis and are forbidden only by rabbinic law.
Yeah, so I think they're allowing the avak ribis. They're letting down that part of the fence so that they can enable more efficient trade. So if you're out in the market and you're 30 minutes from home and you want to make this trade, but you don't have what you need on you to make the trade or to make the sale, but you know that the guy in the stall next to you does, and you and him are good friends, right? You can send for that core of wheat that you have while you're completing the trade that you're doing with the buyer.
Okay. That makes some sense.
Okay.
Okay. Bryce, so now, are you finished with that discussion?
I am.
So they found another Bryce, an external teaching that's supporting the view that we just had of Rav Yitzchak. Tana Rav Chia. They found Rav Chia, he taught this Bryce that he found. Let's see. Yue Rabbi Yitzchak, in support of his friend Rav Yitzchak. Tipat Yayin Elo. That's a tipa is a drop in modern Hebrew. If someone does not have the possession, a drop of wine, he can't borrow wine. Tipat shemen elo. Similarly, if someone doesn't have a drop of oil, he can't borrow oil. One draws his inference to support of Yitzchak. It says yeshlo. That he does, implication that he has a drop of wine or oil, lo va'aleh kama tipin. He may borrow against it with even many drops. Gemara is quoting from the Mishnah again. Hil also. Hil is aser, means prohibiting a loan of goods, even if the borrower has the same goods in his possession. Gemara discusses the halacha. Amar of Nachman Amar Shmuel. Nachman said the Shmuel is halacha kedivrei Hillel. What else is there? Halacha is in accordance with the words of Hillel. The Gemara is rejecting Rav Nachman. It says v'lei hilchata bevate. In fact, the halacha is not in accordance with his view.
We can't even agree to that. Although generally, in matters of civil law, the halacha follows the views of Rav Nachman and Shmuel. Here, the Gemara makes an exception and doesn't follow them.
Okay. Doesn't have to happen every single time. Okay. Gemara's quoting the next part of the Mishnah, and it's going to elaborate on it. Similarly, Hillel ruled stringently, and he used to say this: Lo talve isha, a woman, isha is a woman, can't lend a loaf to a friend unless she assesses the value of the loaf. Yehuda says this, Amar Shmuel. In the name of Shmuel, he said this teaching. Zu divrei Hillel. These words represent only a minority opinion. They are only the words of Hillel. But the sages argued and say this. They say, what do they say? Lovim stam uforim stam. You can lend a loaf without specifying the value and pack a loaf without specifying value.
17.
I believe.
The sages hold that the rabbinical prohibition of a seah for a seah does not apply to domestic loans. The rabbis did not forbid these loans because people are generally not particular about price differences of such small amounts, and therefore the return of extra value in these cases does not fall within the scope of an interest payment.
Thank goodness.
So, other statements made by the same Amora on related subjects. Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Rav Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel this: B'nei Chavurah. Chavurah is a modern term for a group of people that pray together and study together. The members or the children of the Chavurah, Hamakpidin Zelzeh, that who are particular with each other, Ovrim will come to violate the law on account of 4 prohibitions regarding Shabbat and Yom Tov. Number 18.
18. Normally, a group of people who are together on Shabbos or Yom Tov will share their food and drink and are not at risk to transgress any law. But people who are ungenerous toward one another will inevitably violate the law as regards measuring, weighing, and counting their food when eating together on the Shabbat and Yom Tov as follows. Rashi.
Okay, that was 18. Continuing along that vein, namely Mishum Midah, count of what? Prohibition concerns a measure. That's 19.
In Beitza, another tractate, page 29a, it is taught that on Yom Tov and Shabbos, a customer may ask a grocer to fill up a vessel with food and then pay the grocer after Yom Tov, but he may not explicitly mention on Yom Tov the vessel's capacity. Such a remark is forbidden because it converts the giving of the food into a business-like transaction. Ungenerous people are so particular about every petty amount that when they take or give food in a vessel, they will inevitably mention the vessel's size so as to ensure that no mistake happens when returning or paying for the food after Yom Tov. Thus, their stinginess leads them to violate the law. Tosafot.
That was 19. Mishum Mishkal. So Mishkal is a modern Hebrew word for weighing. And on account of the prohibition against weighing, number 20, Marty.
One may not use a scale on Yom Tov to weigh food, but one may estimate its weight by holding it in one's hand, as taught in Beitza on page 28a. These particular people, when taking food from each other on Yom Tov, will not rely on a rough estimate and will inevitably use a scale, thus transgressing the law.
That was 20.
Continuing on.
Umishum.
Umishum minyan. Okay, minyan means actually here counting. Count of the prohibition against counting, minyan, 21.
21. When dividing food such as nuts on Yom Tov, one may not specify the number taken because it causes a division to take on a business-like appearance. But these people will specify the number so that the division should be exact.
That was 21. Okay, blackjack. Umishum lovin uporin. Count of prohibition against borrowing, 22.
When borrowing food on Yom Tov, one may not use the expression halva'ah. Yeah, that's a hey. Halva'ah,
Yeah.
which is the term used to refer to loans of items that are replaced or repaid rather than returned, such as food or money. This is because such loans, unless otherwise specified, are granted for a period of 30 days. And we fear that the lender might be tempted to make a written note of the loan so as not to forget about it. The parties should instead use an unusual term for the loan, that is, she'ela, the term usually reserved for loans of items that are themselves returned, such as household utensils. From Shabbos on page 148a and Rashi there, Orech Chaim, but stingy people will inevitably not comply with this rule when they borrow because they fear that by using the latter term, they will be required to return the item very quickly.
Bimhirut, very, okay. And paying back number 23.
One is not allowed to pay back a debt on the Sabbath or Yom Tov unless one does not mention the word payment, because otherwise it can lead to writing or erasing. But these people always want to be over explicit in their dealings and will not comply with the law.
23. B'Yom Tov. So these violations occur on good day, Yom Tov, over Shabbos. When Divrei Hillel af mishut ribit. According to words of Hillel, these particular people transgress on the weekdays as well on the account of the law of interest. 24. Oh, this is a short tomorrow.
Members of a group who are particular with each other will transgress the laws of ribis when they borrow food from each other and pay back the same amount. Normally, members of one group are not particular about price differences on small items, such as a loaf of bread, and thus any price increase is insignificant and does not constitute interest. But in the eyes of a stingy people, even this very small difference is of paramount importance, and it is given by the borrower only in consideration of the loan. Thus, it constitutes ribis. Note that the Gemara specifies that according to Hillel, the prohibition applies only to a group of stingy people. This is because normally members of one group can be assumed to be generous to one another as concerns the general population. However, who are not members of one group, they must always be assumed not to be liberal to one another. That is why in our Mishnah, which is not discussing members of a group, Hillel forbade loans of food for everyone without making any reference to their begrudging behavior. Wow,
So that's okay if only one person is stingy.
That's tough.
And is it stingy or I don't have as much? So if I lent you 2 loaves of bread, getting 2 small loaves back might be hard for me because it might mean a day's food.
I think that they're saying that
Stingy.
if they're your friends, you're not going to be stingy.
Right. Right.
But if they're not your friends, then you're assumed to be stingy.
Yeah. That's not how we usually think, is it? We assume that someone is going to do the right thing.
I wouldn't make an always in front of that.
Well,
Can somebody explain to me why, if someone does not have in his possession a drop of oil, he cannot borrow oil, or if he doesn't have a drop of wine, he cannot borrow wine? Wouldn't you borrow it if you don't have it?
If you
I
don't
wondered
have it
about that.
at hand.
well, isn't this
And then-
still the I can repay it quickly? I just, I have oil, but I don't have enough oil. I have wine.
No,
but I
it
don't
says
have
if
wine.
you don't have any oil, you
Yeah.
cannot borrow oil. Why? If you don't have oil, wouldn't you want to borrow oil so that you have it? And then
Borrower
when
you
doesn't,
can't-
borrower doesn't know when you're gonna pay it back.
Yeah, the
Yeah, because
rabbis are
then-
worried it's not gonna get paid back.
And they're worried that
I
it's
have to
going to turn
admit, I
into
asked
a
the
loan.
same question.
Yeah,
Makes
It
sense.
goes from
Yeah.
borrowing something to obtaining a loan. And when it becomes a loan, it becomes ribis. Whereas if I'm just borrowing that cup of sugar, then that is either yesh lo, or more specifically in this case, a neighborly transaction of little value. As long as you're not being stingy with your sugar.
I won't be.
And again, I think they specifically repeat the word stingy in reference to the person who is giving the loaf of bread or giving the cup of sugar, right? Don't sit there and keep tally of every time you've loaned out. If you have the ability to loan it out, right, then either do it or don't do it, but don't sit there and count every grain of sugar and expect that person should give you back 3 billion grains of sugar.
That's what I was thinking. You're sitting there counting every
Right.
grain. 50,000 grains. You only gave me
Yeah.
back 49,998.
Because then it goes into taking advantage of your brother and things like that. So be a good neighbor.
State Farm is there.
Yeah.
As long as it's not farmers, in my case, yeah. Another statement by the same Amor on the subject of ribis. New reader, Amar of Yehuda Mar Shmuel. Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel, Talmidei Chachamim Otrim Lovot Zeh Mizeh Beribis. Torah scholars are allowed to borrow from one another on interest. Again, ribis.
I'll read
Anyway.
if nobody wants to. Is that all right?
Ollie, women's
Your
time.
turn.
25. This statement cannot be taken in its plain meaning because it is inconceivable that Torah scholars should be allowed to transgress any prohibition of interest. Rather, the Gemara means that when they repay their loans, they may add a small bonus, which they would have in any case given to each other as a token of friendship, according to Tosafos. Nimukai Yosef adds that this arrangement is permitted only for loans of foods, but not of money or other commodities. Shulchan Aruch rules accordingly.
That's the code of Jewish law, Ollie. Okay. Okay. My Tama. Tam is the reason. So what is it? What is the reason for this? Meida Yadi, they know. The ribis asura. Asura is forbidden. They know that ribis interest is forbidden. And a gift, matanahu, yahu adare. It is merely an innocuous gift that they give each other. 26.
The Torah scholars' profound knowledge of the severity of the prohibition of ribis does not allow his heart to entertain any notion that the bonus is given or taken in consideration of the loan. Rather, it is merely a gift. But as for the general populace, we cannot be certain of their motives, and this arrangement is therefore forbidden for them. Maybe that was true in ancient times, but I wouldn't count on it now.
Oh,
The Gemara is saying an incident. Are you, Neil, you have a comment?
no,
Gemara is saying incident which Shmuel acted in accordance with his previous teaching. So Amalei Shmuel Lavavuha Bar Ihi. He once said to Ahuva Bar Ihi, the name, Alvini Mea Pilpulin. I love that word in modern Hebrew. Pilpel, we've had that, Scott, right?
Yeah.
Peppers.
Hebrew.
Mea is 100. So Halveni is to lend me. Lend me 100 peppers, modern Hebrew. Mea Vestrin Pilpulin. We're going to repay him with 120 peppers. Estrin is 20. But Arich, and it's totally in order. It's totally in order. You can do so. 27.
Shmuel promised Avuha a bonus of 20 peppers. But Shmuel knew full well in his heart that the bonus was not in consideration of Avuha's advancing him alone. Indeed, even if Avuha would have refused to advance him alone, Shmuel would nevertheless have given him the 20 peppers.
Afraid we're a little more cynical these days.
That was 27. Finishing up this Gemara, it's short. So on to the next Gemara, Mishnah. Another statement in Yehuda on the subject of ribbis. Amar of Yehuda, Amar Rav. Yehuda said name of Rav this. Mutar, it's permitted lo la Adam, for a person, the Havot Banav Uvnei V'nei ribbis. So you can lend on interest to his children and members of his household. Why? Kadei lahatima tam ribbis. So as to let them taste the bitter taste of paying interest. Lend it to you and they can taste the bitterness, like coming on Pesach or Maror.
28. The father lends them on interest as an educational exercise so that they should feel how much paying interest distresses and pinches the borrower, and they themselves will refrain from taking interest from others in the future, according to Rashi and Nimuki Yosef. Since the father never meant a serious loan, the undertaking does not have the nature of true ribis and is permitted. Alternatively, since the father supports the children, any interest they pay him comes in any case out of his own pocket and is not true interest, according to Ritva.
Unless they're 21 and living at home.
Funny stuff. Okay, to wrap it up, the Gemara rejects it. Say, okay, the love miltahi. No, it's not good, not correct. Why? Mishum ta'ate lemisrach. For they might become drawn to it, to the ribbis. 29.
Excuse me. 29. The exercise might have the opposite effect than intended. The children might realize that taking interest is easy profit and may become attracted to the idea, according to Rashi and Nimuke Yosef.
Yeah, easy money. Okay.
Rabbi, you want to stop here? Because this is the last Mishnah and it's a long one. And then we have
Yeah, we
a
got
short
a long
Gemara.
one. Big one for next week, the Mishnah. Oh yeah, look at
We could finish the Mishnah and the Gemara next week, but since they go together, it makes sense to put them
Wait,
together.
now the question is, I'm not going to be here, Marcia. Next week is Purim. Do you guys want to have a class? Marty, are you going to want to lead a class on Purim?
Not on Purim, no.
So we'll do it in 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
Okay.
Okay, 2
So
weeks.
no classes next week.
No class
Purim.
next week because of Purim.
Right.
Purim. Yeah, let's celebrate Purim. I'm going to.
Okay, Purim next week. Gotcha.
Purim. Have fun, guys.
Okay, so no
Okay.
class next week. We'll
resume.
finish up.
We'll resume in 2 weeks with the Mishnah on 75A3, the long one. Okay.
And we're gonna finish chapter 5. So we're really close to the end now.
We gotta get the next book.
Okay.
Well, if you don't have the book, I think we're about a month away from the next book.
Got it.
I think we'll start the next book around Passover, which will be good. So
How to get the next book.
This will be the first tractate we've completely gone through from start to finish, and it'll be
really, all three books.
Yeah.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Night, have a good week.
Good
Have a good week,
night.
everyone.
Good seeing
I'll
you, Marty.
see you guys at 8.
See you guys.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
All right, see everybody in a little bit.
Mhm.
A little bit.
Yep.
Neil.
Tell them,
Night.
never mind,
What?
never mind, that the Hanukkah Seder wasn't on his announcements.
Oh. He's going.
I'll tell you, I was lost tonight. I don't
It
know if
wasn't
it's
easy.
just
It
because
wasn't.
I'm tired.
Hey, Harley. I mean, Sharon, it wasn't easy following this. Sharon, in May.
We're supposed to have a Purim Shabbat dinner Friday. And the
Well, you know
weather,
what? We're
weather's
supposed
not
to have
looking
Shabbat
good.
across America, and we have Rosetra coming for Shabbat across America. I don't know if we're going to have a meal live. Actually, we'll have to see. The
Is
weather
that
right
Friday?
now, it's iffy. Right? Friday is supposed to be Shabbat.
Yeah,
But
I went and
putting in the
canceled
weekly. I'm putting
I
in the weekly.
canceled our Purim Shabbat dinner. We're gonna have it next week.
Well, we might have to do the same with the meal the week after. We have Tammy back the week after, and then we have Tammy and the flutist on the 17th. So
Ooh,
we got some good things coming up for us.
St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, we actually do some good things coming up, Sharon. Actually, our little synagogue, we got big programs, and I got to tell you, we have the Purim play. I'm in. I'm Mordechai. I have my dress rehearsal on Sunday, the last one, and
Did you do that last year too?
I
You
did.
did
I
last
was
year.
I was in the play last year, and then I'm reading the Megillah. I'm reading 4 chapters actually this year.
Are you really?
Marty's reading 1. I'm reading 4. Bruce Goldstein's reading 1. So from our synagogue, we have like 6 chapters read. So
Nice. You're really doing a good job of trying to keep the synagogue active.
I'm trying. I tell you the truth. I look at the most vibrant synagogues in the country, and I just check what they're doing, and I try to mimic what they're doing if I can.
I don't think Bethel is going to last much longer.
Yeah, really?
As much as I have tried, and I have really put my heart and soul into this, but we're we're not getting younger members, and a lot of our members are just dying and they're not being replaced. So,
Well, you know what? The thing is, we have a similar situation. I'm trying to find a way. We're working with Scott, Josh, Deanie. We're trying to find a way to Jimmy. We're trying to find a way to reach out to more people. But, I think that sisterhood idea is a good thing. Why, if we have a men's club that's active, why should we not have a sisterhood club that's active?
my mom always belonged to a sisterhood at Brothers of Joseph.
Yeah.
So I would be excited to do
I
it.
think that's one thing we're missing now. We have my cousin that's going to be speaking about Torah reading, Rabbi. I'll probably book him after I get back from Israel in May. So we have something to look forward to on a Tuesday. But I think that we have a lot of things going. I have a lot of friends. We use Jennifer. We'll probably use Jennifer again. We got Tammy. We got the flute player. We got Rosetra. I just gave a class I finished it up on Jews and rock and roll. The last class was yesterday for the girls, the Hebrew high school, 14-year-olds that I taught. So I might use that as a class in the summer, actually.
You've done that before. You've done the rock and roll.
Not at Ahavath Achim, I haven't. No.
Oh, I thought you did several years ago.
Well, I don't remember if I did. I don't remember it, but yesterday we did Billy Joel. We didn't start the fire in the Piano Man album. We did those songs.
Nice. Very nice.
So one of the girls is Ukrainian, and I wrote something about the killings in Israel. I mean, from West Hartford, Ilan Ganelis. It's really sad, but he passed away from the shooting yesterday.
In West Hartford?
He was shot to death yesterday in Samaria. Anyway,
not in West Hartford.
He's from West Hartford.
Oh.
His parents live in West Hartford. Anyway, the thing is about him, I posted about it on Facebook, and someone posted, Nellie Ackerman from Waterford posted saying, yeah, a lot of people angry. She's Ukrainian. So I said, I was looking about her family, and I saw pictures. I said, oh, that girl's in my Jewish rock and roll class. So I asked her, I said, is your daughter in my class? Was she? And she goes, yes. And I said, well, how did she like it? She said, oh, she loved it. So I'm glad people liked it, Sharon.
So do you do SEAMs after the kids graduate from Hebrew high school? Do they have a SEAM?
Yeah, we're gonna have a graduation, yeah.
Because
I all the rabbis right now starting after Purim, the kids are coming. Their final class is basically the Purim thing that we have next week. But the 13th, they're starting with, I don't know how they like it, Jewish challenges with Jeremy and Mark Ekstrand from Manual. They're teaming up for a class. I used to team up with Mark all the time, but I prefer to do my own class, tell you the truth. I like to do my own thing, whatever I want. Next year's class is going to be ethics from Magic and Harry Potter movies. So that's already set. That's next year's class. So.
You should have some adult classes that you do that with.
Well, Deanie wants me to do that. So when we have time, I mean, as it is, we got the meditation thing coming up in May. So when we have time in the summer, I might do a Jewish rock and roll class. You know, we can find
fun.
It's better live than on Zoom, actually. It's meant to be. It wasn't on Zoom. It was only live. So
I would go.
I mean, maybe Tammy and I can play some Jewish rock and roll. We could do a couple of classes, maybe on some of the songs that I used. Hallelujah. I used "We Didn't Start the Fire." I used "Piano Man." I did a whole bunch of interesting songs. So
I'm going to try to come to Shabbat on Saturday. We'll see what the weather is like and how the roads are.
It's good. So yeah.
Tom seems to think we're only going to get rain, but the last time I looked,
I hope
like
so.
we were getting snow.
Well, I have to have food anyway in preparation on Friday. So, well, we'll see. We in the weekly it says, weather permitting. So when I send that out after the next class, you'll see that it says that in there. So
I got them. I print them and I read them.
Well, I'm glad people read them.
Well, and I love what you did here. How you just did everything, Tuesday evening classes. You describe what they are. Wednesday afternoon, you describe what they are. So you don't do Jewish literacy on Fridays anymore. You switch that to Wednesday?
That's because the Stevensons couldn't do it on Friday. Yeah.
Okay. So you have class from 2:30 to 4 on Wednesdays, right? Okay.
How do you like that the MRI, exactly what I thought it was that I went to Jimmy, my friend, I haven't seen him in 15 years. He and I had a massage session with him. He's really tough on the muscles. And he and I said, C3, C4, C5, C6, C7, tight in my neck. That's causing the tingling in my hands. I get the MRI from Dr. Bailey. I get the PT in Harvard Healthcare, which is like a mile from here. It's across from Bruce Goldstein's office.
Right.
So they tell me in the MRI, C3, C4, C5, C6, C7. I said, Jeffrey, I am not shocked about that result.
So what's happening? How did they treat it?
I have exercises like, I got to do it. I got to get it's on the floor of my car. I got to go do the stretching exercises after later.
All right, I'm gonna go do my physical therapy too while you do that.
Okay, I'll see you later. Okay.
All right.
just wanted to know, I text you, I don't know if you got it, that Share Brooks' Facebook page has my end live. I have class, I'm gonna watch it after. It's on tonight, it's on right now. Well, you can watch it later, it's being archived, you don't have to watch it now. It's gonna be on his Facebook page afterwards, so. No, I just want to let you know, if you feel bad you miss it, you can watch it later tonight. No, he decided to broadcast it. Are you gonna watch me in the play at 7 o'clock on Purim night? Are you gonna watch me Monday on Zoom? I got the lead role. I have the lead role. You gonna watch me in the Purim spiel? Okay, I'll. I know, I was worried about him, so I texted him, told me he lives in Denver a while ago. He's staying for free, and he's staying at the Lake Tahoe Hospital, that's where he's sleeping. Yeah, you save money. No, I guess he's wanted free room and board, so he's staying at the hospital overnight. He told me that, I don't know if it's true, that's what he said. Why would I be naive? That's what he told me. Did you see the list of Amanda's songs on the ukulele? I can't believe it's like 20 songs. Oh, you didn't get the text from her about the song she does? Huh? Debbie, I need some advice. Thursday, I just got the director for the by Broadway class. She's saying, please get there 15 minutes early and get ready to act. Get ready to be in your positions at 12 noon sharp. What did your teacher have a power trip also with the improv acting? Yeah, you told me. Yeah. So Debbie, why do these teachers take it so seriously? Adult ed, they make it seem like I'm on a Broadway stage here. I get ready 15 minutes in advance my role. Oh, you saw it, I forgot. Oh. Oh, I saw it. My father was serious, and I was sitting on the floor laughing. Remember at IBM? I worked with Sonia. I told him, "No, don't put my Book of Mormon on my desk every day. Every morning, you put the Book of Mormon on my desk." Oh, right, those guys in the black suits and the black suits and the white ties. I got news for you, Debbie. That thing's a whole joke. That whole religion is a joke. So you think I should make a commitment of 2.5 hours every day for the next year? Go down to $7 a class. Yeah. They're very good. I love them. They said we have to love each other. They said we have to love each other like a group, like a theater troupe. Yeah. They are more talented. They've had 10 years experience. Yeah, I am. I'm not, but these people are putting on British accents like no one's business, you know? Well, they did, actually, they did. No. But Debbie, you know what the funny thing is, the way things work out in my world? The movie theater in Niantic, which is about 3 minutes from the group where I meet, they closed the movie theater and they're opening a theater. They're opening a community theater in that place. Yeah, I told the kids that you're having two of them. I told Amanda and Danny that. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, great. He doesn't? He doesn't? No, he has a terrible role model. Thursday at noon. No, I just got to ask you one thing about advice. It takes an awful lot of my day out of my day off. They're $20,000 on a Thursday. My day off. It takes a lot of commitment and time. It's the only, Debbie, it's the only option I have. Yeah. You said the curtain goes up at 12 o'clock. The curtain goes up at 12 o'clock. Yeah. Yeah. But should I be intimidated? They're there 10 years and I only had one class. Right, yeah. Oh. But were you good at cold readings? You have to read stuff. You don't even look at it. You have to look at it for the first time and get into it and act it out. Yeah. No, cold readings you don't have to memorize. Well, when we're in a play, we're gonna have to. Yeah. Well, we're not doing one right now, so it's just the class right now. Just cold readings. He said he'll reconsider in April. He'll revisit it. Yeah. Well, he's on and off with it. Yeah. He's not doing well. He's got diabetes issues. That's all for the time. Yeah. What am I supposed to do? I can't go fly up the party right now. I'm still dealing with my nerves with my arm. You know, well, Debbie, if I could drive there, why? I mean, I'm taking a lot of vacation. Well, her husband's taking care of her, Alan Norton. Yeah, anyway, I gotta go have a 8 o'clock class. Kabbalah. Okay, I'll change it. Okay. Okay. Yeah, which hat? Oh, you mean the cap? Oh, you don't like it? Okay. You don't like the cowboy hat? Oh, it is. You're right. I got to get another one. You're right. It is. I tried to straighten out and I couldn't. I'm glad you told me the truth.
I feel like we're snooping in his conversation.
Yeah, I tried not to.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm trying. Okay, thanks for the advice about it. I agree with you about it. I have to get a different one. You're right. I agree with you about that. Yeah. Yeah, thanks. I doubt it because it's too far of a trip. Okay, well, anyway, take care. Thank you for the advice. Appreciate it. Yeah, okay. I'll tell her, you know, I get there when I get there. So okay. You know, you had the same experience, right? So you told me. Yeah, okay. Okay.
Ay, ay, ay.
Bye.
I think he forgot to mute himself.
I think he did too.
Don't worry,
Sorry.
Rabbi. We were
Sorry,
only
guys, I didn't know
passively
you were on
listening.
early.
We
Sorry.
were listening. We only heard part of your
Listening to you.
conversation.
You forgot to
Sorry.
mute yourself.
I forgot. I'm sorry. I was just,
We didn't break out the popcorn. It was okay.
you want to have a real scene, popcorn and all that? Okay, I wanted to talk to you about a little bit about this week's Torah portion because I think it's very important, and we're getting back to that. We're going to get to the Shvitis. I'm going to speak to Jen Judelson. Maybe we can do something together about the Shvitis, which are like the words of the Psalms inside of, holy objects, like a menorah, stuff like that. Are you guys interested in the Shvitis?
What are the Shvitis?
Shvitis are like, it's like a menorah with the words of a psalm inside of it. Has power with the words healing.
Okay.
So why don't you look it up in the meantime, SHVITI, and see if you're interested in it. Look it on the internet. There's a million of them.
You know, I'd love to do
Yeah.
like an exercise with her showing us sort of her process and us trying to do the same thing and see what we come up with.
Like doing a mandala. I've done mandala. I have one.
You know what? I like that idea, Arlene. I really like that idea.
A little more interactive.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. I would like to understand her process of how she channels as well.
Yes.
How she comes up with those mandalas is just amazing.
Oh, did we decide about sending her flowers?
Yes, we're going to do it. Scott, can we do
Okay.
it this Friday?
I'm
Or next-
actually pulling that up right now so we can What's everybody's threshold of pain for how much they want to spend on flowers?
I think,
Whatever.
what about 20 a person? Was that okay?
Okay with me.
Mm-hmm.
Do 20.
So Scott, is 20 okay
Okay.
for each person?
Yep, so I find
Can
something.
I just
Find
hand
something
it
that's
to you
around.
through the camera?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Can I be rude enough to make a suggestion?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, you don't have to be rude about it. No.
But that's $100. That's 5 of us, right? It's $100 for flowers. I'd offer the suggestion of
Yeah.
fruit. What's the name of the place?
Oh, edible
Edible
arrangements.
Edible
arrangements.
Well,
We're
we
gonna
could do
spend
that too.
kind of
I'm not
money.
married.
I gotta tell you, you gotta be careful because Jennifer has a very, very strict things that she
Yeah.
can eat.
Yeah,
and
that's what
cannot
I'm
eat.
worried about. Arlene, I'm
Right.
worried about her.
She
Okay.
has some medical issues that she might
And I
not,
hate to get it for nothing.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
It's
Well, we
only
do know
because
she likes
Rabbi and I
flowers.
know
I think we're talking
Jennifer.
about
I
that.
mean, that's a great
Yeah.
idea, but
No worries. No worries.
It was a good idea.
awesome. How
I
about if
mentioned
we were
it.
to get her like a plant, something that would continue to live?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good idea too.
Instead of
Scott, can you see
flowers
what's out
that would
there? Can
eventually
you see what's
spend
out there,
time.
Scott, with plants?
Yep. Yeah, I'll figure it out and let you know. What's her zip code again? Because it's gonna depend on what her zip code is.
The zip code is 14221.
Okay. I'll let you know.
I think it's
Actually,
wonderful that
pulling
we're
the
giving.
page up right now.
I think it's okay that we're giving her something is an important thing. The bottom line
Yeah.
is we show appreciation for what she's done for us, which is 4 classes for nothing, really.
Mm.
Okay, are we all set with that?
Yep. I'd say so.
Okay, I wanted to talk to you. I mentioned in the last class about how if men put on tefillin, I guess women can put it on too. It can help with heart problems. So I like that too. And there's a concept in when the women go to the mikvah when they're ritually impure. You know that women have to go
Yeah.
and wait, can't have sexual relations. It turns out that the science behind it, I love looking at the science behind it. Women that are Orthodox that go to the mikvah have a much lower chance of developing cervical cancer. Did you know that? Yeah,
Why is that?
because of the whole process. God knows what he was doing. When God works on things that we're supposed to be doing traditional, you might think it's not that important, right? Most people say, what importance is there? Well, when you can put the science behind it and say, hey, look at the incidence of people. Look at the suicide rate among Orthodox Jews compared to other people. Look at the suicide rate lately. Look at the people overdosing on suicide based on overdosing on drugs or alcohol poisoning. So I think the whole reason is you have to have a purpose. And I think if we studied nothing else from my teachings when I was younger of Reb Nachman, he said, it's up to you. You have to have power in prayer. You put your power in prayer, except for when you're doing the silent devotion, the Amidah. You owe it to yourself. You guys believe in that, guys? That you have to make sure you're writing the right words and giving it your all, Scott. Right? You're new to the religion, right? Do you feel that way? You do it a lot, I see in the shul. You have to give it your all in the prayer, right? You can't just do a half-assed job and expect God to answer you. If you have your mind on, I have to go to the florist next after shul on Saturday. I have to get Aunt Billy her medications, you have to be honed in. You guys believe in it? You have to be honed into God. You have to be on the frequency of God. You want God to help you. You have to give God your undivided attention. And I know I get distracted too, especially when Scott wasn't doing the Zoom thing. It was hard, right? People saying, "Where's the link? Where's the link?" Right?
I can say that I feel that I struggle with that because of the kids. I have a hard time breaking away, but I understand I also have the responsibility to them. So I try and grant myself a little grace, but I try and also do my best to find a way to separate so I can do that. So because I know there are times during the day that I'm calling on God for some help, and it's about me, and I need to make sure that I'm giving back to him the time that he deserves too. So yeah, it's I understand the importance of that and trying to really make a point to focus my mind and give myself the space just with him, so.
I grew up with a song that a teacher of mine composed when I was in elementary school. It's called Rabot Machshavot. It was by a group called the Rabbi's Sons. And my teacher was one of the Rabbi's sons. And the words were Rabot, you can relate to this, Deanne. Rabot Machshavot Belevish. Ve'atzat Hashem hi ta'akum. What does that mean? Your thoughts, when you come into the heart of praying, when the thoughts are coming to you in the heart of all of you who are praying. When is this talking about? During praying. And these thoughts can be very bad sometimes because the evil inclination, you don't always know what you're saying sometimes. Sometimes you find yourself, what happens? The most evil thoughts. That means that you have to wipe those out. And you have to return to purity, Atzat Hashem, the ways of God. You have to wipe out the thoughts. Do you ever feel that way, guys, Sharon? That some thought is entering your mind when you're praying and you're saying, "Oh no, why am I thinking about that? About someone's negative situation." Does that ever enter your mind, Sharon, when you're praying? That all of a sudden something. That's why this prayer was composed. Atzat Hashem itakum. You have to get away from that and go back to the wavelength of God. Atzat Hashem, the ways of God.
It does. I do. I
Yeah,
can be
Arlene?
deep into a prayer, and I don't know if the prayer brings it on, and all of a sudden my mind just sort of shifts and I have to bring myself back.
Yeah, you know what? It happens to me too. It's always happened to me too. It's not easy. When I was studying to be a rabbi, I said, you know what? If I have to be an example of prayer, it's not easy because I have to worry about I have to look at everyone's energy and see how everyone's doing with the prayers. If some people are struggling, some people are spaced out with it. So it's hard necessarily for me to be able to do it myself. So I have a problem too. I always think of that Rabot Machshavot. I listened to that song hundreds of times when I was younger. I used to play for the kids too, a lot. So they didn't know what it meant really, but you worry about your kids when you're praying too, right? Kids have issues and then you have to deal with them. But the ways of God, eventually you want to get on that wavelength of God, you have to tune it out. Dan, do you ever have how do you deal with it when you have Maid Marian is moving around and crying?
It's hard. And I think because I'm still learning, so I'm learning the prayers and how to say them, but then I'm also trying to catch up and learn what all the prayers mean specifically too. And it gets really hard. Sometimes I feel horrible for asking Scott over and over and over and over again. Oh yeah, what's that prayer mean? And that prayer's for this. And he's like, no, well, we talked about this 7 times, but there's a lot of interruptions. So it's hard. And what I find myself doing is if I get distracted by one of the kids, I get to a point in the prayer and then I realize how distracted I've become and try and get okay with whatever the kids are doing, as long as it's not hurting anyone and they're not being completely disrespectful. So I can come back and start either wherever I left off and get as far as I can, or just continue on with everybody else. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge. It makes me feel like sometimes my learning is very stunted, but it's also where I am right now. So I'm I'm not going to stop, and I'm trying not to let it get me down. So
Well,
I don't
you
know how you do it. I don't know how you do it with all the kids.
I think you have to have some kind of happy medium, for lack of better words. You know, you've got a lot of responsibilities during the day, and you've taken on a feeling that you want to be responsibility to God as well. So those things will happen. And I think God understands that. I don't think he'd like you to just keep praying and your kids are off hurting each
Yes.
other, you know? So I think there's that, that's what has to happen, you know?
Well, and sometimes I pray about that too, when I feel very down about it. And usually within the next day or two, the kids will say something new out of one of the prayers that we do every week. And for me, I take that as my indication from God, you're doing just fine.
Yeah.
I'm okay with what you can do right now. So that's when I don't get that right away, I'm like, oh man, this is really painful. But then usually I find that like it'll be Alexander most often, but you know, all of a sudden Marion now she's trying to say the Shema in the morning and at night while we say it with the kids. And it's like, I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, you can hear her. She's like, Ma, yeah. And it's just crazy for her to be able to do that with all of us, you know? So I'm like, we're doing all right.
When you guys battle, if you lose a battle in life, you feel very dejected. That's the nature. But in battle, any contest that we're in, no one wants to be the loser. There's one exception. The only exception is this: God. The Gemara tells us in Psachim, and we have an example we had in Baba Metzia about someone overcoming certain things through miracles. It was Rabbi Elazar Aggadah. We had it on page 59 in the Talmud that we just studied. It says, Gemara says the sense, Lam Natseach Mizmor LeDavid. So what does it mean? Lam Natseach. What does it mean? It means to defeat and to win. What's the Mizmor? We have the word Zimmer in a lot of our Psalms. It means a song. So Lam Natseach Mizmor means a prayer to God who enjoys being defeated. When does God enjoy being defeated? When God says to us, come, your challenges. When we're going to have the prayers Friday night, God's saying and challenging us. Lam Natseach Mizmor LeDavid. Come, David. Yeah, come try to defeat me. I want that. I enjoy that. I relish it. Come offer your prayers and win out against me. Could you ever think of that, Scott, that God is daring us? God is daring us. Okay, things in your life, I want you to defeat me. I want to think that what I'm doing in life to you may not be fair, but I want you to pray about it. I want you to defeat me, and I want you to win over me. Like what happened with Moses? Moses, remember after the golden calf, Moses says, God wanted to wipe everyone out. Moses prayed, and God had mercy on us. He had to defeat God's judgment. Do you ever think of that, Scott? That God is saying to us, okay, defeat me. I want you to defeat me with your words. Go ahead and I'm not saying Mizmor LeDavid. Go defeat me like David did, because David was powerful in our prayer. You ever think of it that way, Scott?
Yeah, I think it's like when you have young children.
Yeah.
All right. I've told you a number of times that the stove is hot.
Yeah.
Go ahead, touch it. You really want to do it? By all means, go for it. And that's the way you're going to learn your lesson. So I think that's part of it, right? That, you know, go ahead and you're going to learn from this experience, whether I know that you're going to lose or whether I'm going to let you win.
Yeah.
It's not only with children, Scott.
Oh, I know. I know. 20 years in the Navy, I know.
I tell him, don't go out and shovel. We can afford to pay someone, a young man, to shovel for us. Don't go out and shovel. You want to go out and shovel?
Help going downstairs.
Go ahead, go.
Yeah.
I won't be too long.
So we have to have emunah. We have to have faith in. That's what the thing about Karen bothers me so much, because we couldn't pray for her. We have to have emunah. When we say I say some of my friends that have a week to live, I don't believe that they're actually going to die. I have to have faith that there is some way that we can reverse it somehow. I like to have it. With Karen, I didn't know, so I couldn't try it. But God wants us to have faith and have pity on other people. Of course, God wants us to have pity. He wants to be like He is, Erech HaPayim. God wants to have if God has compassion on us, God wants us to make sense, guys. God wants us to have compassion on others, right? And what's the best way to go through it? Yeah.
Rabbi, if you don't know that someone is sick,
Right.
then why are you, I'm trying to understand why you feel so badly about not saying a mishabera for a person that you didn't even know was sick, because that person made a decision not to tell you. Why are you still feeling so badly about it? It would be one thing if you knew that another person was ill and you chose not to say a mishabera, but if you don't know that someone is sick,
Well, you know
and
why?
that's their choice and their responsibility to tell you.
You know why I feel
Why
that
do
way?
you still feel badly?
Why do I feel that way? Is because when I see her kids who all taught in the Hebrew school and should have known better, and she was a gabbai in our shul, and I look at the grandchildren, those adorable 3 kids, I feel bad for them. I don't feel bad for me, Sharon. I feel bad for a family that loses a grandmother that was so close to them. It is hard having a 2 years old and a 9-year-old have to lose a grandmother who they're close to. I feel bad for the family that was their decision, to tell you the truth. I don't feel bad necessarily for me or the community. I feel bad for the family that sort of didn't believe in it. Would you agree with me, Scott? Would you be upset?
It's a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Right. It's a missed opportunity to have improved somebody's life. But Sharon's also correct that, we feel bad, but I don't think there's any judgment being passed over us for not having said anything when we didn't know.
I mean, unfortunately, if I had known her and she had not said anything to me and all of a sudden she passed on, my first actual emotion would have been angry. I would have been angry because maybe if she had said something to me and the whole community came together and prayed for her, we're never going to know if it could have extended her life.
Right. We don't know now.
We're never going to know that because she chose not to give us that opportunity to do that for her. I know it probably sounds cynical, but
I think more rather than angry, I would be disappointed.
Disappointed.
Yes.
Even better.
Someone
Yes.
That's a better
I
word.
loved as a
That's
friend.
a way better word. Yeah.
I'd be very disappointed, but it's her decision.
Yeah.
I think I said this earlier. When I give a name for the Mishaberach, it's for God to choose. Maybe God will choose giving them some degree of cure, some degree of health, or maybe in the worst case scenario, will help that person go easily. So the prayer, I think, I interpret it, my own interpretation is to let God know that we want him to help this person in the way that he can.
Yeah.
I like that.
You know what? The best that we could have hoped for happened. We had a nice crowd for her memorial service. The kids were all there. The grandchildren were there. That's all that we could have hoped for, because since the family refused to have any of us from culture to speak at the funeral, we did our own thing. And I think the kids realized that, and they were all on there, realized that they might have wished they had done a little differently. But I can't say, again, that was Leah's decision, and the oldest kid makes the decision, and they decided what to do with her burial, her service, And all that we can do is do the best that we had open to our people, which, Arlene, that was a great thing. You spoke, a number of people spoke, right, about Karen at our service. And I think that's the best. Agree with me, Arlene? That was the best that we could do. Have
Yeah.
Marcia, her best friend, do the eulogy.
Yeah. Yeah. Marcia didn't even speak in Westport?
No, she wasn't invited to speak. No.
Really?
But it, I
To
mean,
me,
it
to me,
really
that's
was,
strange, but that lies on them, not on us.
Right. The whole thing just sounded strange, but hey, you know what? That was their wishes and
yeah.
And I don't go, I told the rabbi, I'm not going against anyone's wishes. That's the wish. That's
Right.
the wish. You want to do that? Do that.
Mhm.
you know, maybe with what she had, she was ready to go and she just, you know,
Who knows?
I just saw a testimony from someone that was healed alternative medicine from what she had actually.
really.
And that's what really made me think today. When I got an email about 4 hours ago from someone who had the same issue with leukemia and overcame it completely. When I read that, I said, oh my God, leukemia doesn't necessarily have to kill someone.
Right.
It's not pancreatic cancer.
Wow.
I know many people that overcame leukemia, many.
You know, it's a who knows, you know, it's
Mhm.
But
I
as you
think
said,
at the end
Arlene,
of the day,
yeah,
it's just our duty to accept it, and then going
Right.
forward, be a little more keen on who might be having issues, but they're not speaking up. Be a little
Right.
bit more intrusive without being overbearing.
Well, we didn't see her for a number of months on the services, right?
and I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know what
Right.
happened.
So maybe that's the lesson to make sure you reach out.
right.
I mean, that's the lesson I took from it.
Right.
That's why when I didn't see Marty on Talmud, I sent him a text and
Yeah,
said,
because Marty
"Hey,
forgets
you're
sometimes. He
coming
gets
to Talmud,
involved.
right?"
Marty forgets in the kills. He forgets what day it is sometimes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
That's
you
what retirement does for you.
I wanted to ask you this about this week's Torah portion. Why do you think there was 7 little candles that we do now, that we have the lights for the oil for the candelabra? What is magical? I mean, I'm going back to my Rabbi Joel Bax, who died, had a heart attack in the sukkah. He died without, it's like, maybe it was his time to go. It's like a kiss of death, right? Keeled over, no warning, dropped dead of a heart attack in 2 seconds. I want to share something that he did, that he taught me. So what do you think's magic about 7, Scott? Do you think there's anything magic about 7? Why in the temple we would have 7 of all things? Why 7?
off the top of my head, I don't know.
Days of the week.
Yeah.
7 of the days of the week. We all
Because
know,
that's
right?
the only time that 7, Rabbi Wavovsky did a study session with us, or one of the rabbis, I
Yeah.
forget which one. And he said that 7 really doesn't appear
Right.
in the Torah, that all of our holidays are 8 days long. And the only time it appears is the days of the week.
Yeah.
And 7 is a special number. So
But
it's,
can you think of anything more in the secular world?
I mean, you have six days of the week, and then Shabbat. And if you look at a menorah with 7 branches, you have the 6 candles and the 1 shamash, right?
no, you have 7
Can you
candles,
think of something?
8
Can you,
candles. There's 8 candles.
Candles.
Yeah,
Okay.
7 candles in the
can you
Shamash.
think of something that the Messiah? What do you think about the Freemasons? Why did they have 7? Why was 7 special to them?
Have anything to do with the 7 oceans? I'm
Nope.
trying to think of things that are 7.
You know what? It has to do with 7 liberal arts and sciences. That's the Masonic way of doing it. My grandfather was a Mason. He told me 7 liberal arts and sciences. And in deference to Rabbi Bax, my good rabbi, who no one seemed to understand, not even Michael Greenwald. Anyway, he believed that you have to, and I think that it has to do with the fact that we're sort of transmuting the sciences. And if you look at mathematics and science, which God, but if you look at the heavenly structure, it's all based on math. So if you look at so Scott, name me some arts, name me some sciences and math that you think would compose 7 ways that nations of the world approach their understanding of the world knowledge.
If we're talking secular and nations,
Yes.
economics,
Physics,
calculus, physics, engineering. That's 4, right?
trigonometry.
Yeah, I mean, that all leads up to calculus. I mean, math in general.
Okay, Arlene.
Here, Arlene.
Take care.
Bye, Arlene.
Bye-bye. See you.
Gosh.
What about, can you name the
Design.
sciences?
Well, design
Physics.
goes with engineering, but
Can you name the sciences? Physics, biology,
Chemistry,
chemistry,
astronomy,
biology.
trigonometry.
Trigonometry's
Or-
math.
Mm.
yeah, trig
I
math.
know, but you have to include math in there too. Geometry,
Algebra.
algebra, trigonometry,
Mhm.
and calculus.
Huh.
That's what Rabbi Bax called it. He said the Vilna Gaon, the great sage, his long relative way back, said that every Jew has to understand those 7 things. If you don't understand geometry, you have no business studying Kabbalah, he said. If you don't understand astronomy, you have no business studying. If you don't understand physics or chemistry or biology or math, you have no business studying sciences, or you have no business studying Kabbalah. That was his view. Not everyone would agree with that. What do you think of that, Scott? Those are
No,
the
I mean,
7 ways for non-Jewish people to find a way to understand the way of God.
you have to have a firm grasp of the world under your feet.
Yeah.
Be able to have any hope of grasping what's above your head.
But do you think God really cares if you understand geometry and calculus and physics and biology and chemistry and astronomy? Is it really that important to God?
I
think
sure
so.
hope
I think
not.
you can. Well, I don't know. I think so. But it also depends on, where you've gone in your life and how you've gotten there. I mean, Deanne did many years working for a nonprofit, and it wasn't very beneficial for her professional life. And after that, working at somewhere getting paid more, it was a drag. But she has really fallen into her own in being a mother. And I've got a 4-year-old who can write his name, and his we're not talking Bob, we're talking William.
Wow.
Well, I
Right.
think Marcy's late husband knew that, because it was a basic understanding of Masonic ways of looking at the world and looking at the universe. You have to realize those seven that they call liberal arts and sciences are crucial. That number 7 is crucial for them. I'm not a Freemason, but I can tell you from I spoke to Freemasons, they believe deeply in that 7 is crucial to understand Freemasonry and the way
That's
the temple.
funny because he never said a word about any of this.
He's not supposed to. They can kill him if he does.
Masons are not, my father was a Mason. They are a totally secret organization.
But then he would say, well, you can find half of this stuff online. So it's just funny that I never heard it.
You can find it online.
Yeah.
Now.
God must have had some sense of geometry, because he created the world as a sphere.
Mm-hmm.
Right, exactly.
Well,
He could have created it as a triangle or a square
Right.
or a parallelogram.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and once you mentioned the Freemasons, I was a rainbow girl when I was
Okay.
younger.
Oh, you were?
And I was like, what 7? The 7 colors of the rainbow.
Yes, the
How did you come up with it?
rainbow.
Red,
Yeah.
orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet.
Yeah.
Right,
Yes.
but they all had their meanings behind each color, right?
Oh, yes. I
With
was
all
a
the
mother
morals.
advisor, Deanne.
Oh my gosh, were you really?
Which is really funny. Yes. Because I was not a rainbow girl. No, I got rooked into it because I
Yeah,
stupidly
sometimes they
asked
just
what it
need help.
was, and that was it. And they needed someone. It took a number of years, but I ended up getting drafted.
Yeah.
Well, the colors heal, actually. If you understand the colors principle, I've seen people that were cured from any type of disease using color therapy, light therapy. I could tell you myself, infrared light therapy is the only reason I'm walking around and working out without knee replacement surgery. They look at me at Health Tracks and say, Ken, the therapist says, Ken, if a scientist had to open your legs up, we'd like to see how you're managing with no cartilage, how you're working out like this. And I told her, infrared light therapy is the key to it.
It's working for Scott's dad too, with his ankles.
Yeah.
And his knees.
Oh, really?
Yeah. When we go visit, he's like, Scott, you need to go in my office. You go in there for like 15, 20 minutes.
I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it. Marcy has a laser in her house, and I have a $1,200 laser myself for the knees. You can use it on the knees. I use it if I can't get to the gym where they have Planet Fitness has a free one. I use it at home, the little one. But you know what? I think a lot of people don't believe in colors, but red light can cure me of any problem with my knee. Red light, if I go for 10 minutes a day, every day, I have no pain. And if I do Zumba, kickboxing, don't matter what I do. Zumba, kickboxing, what I do. Power yoga in 128-degree weather today. Inside, I'm saying, controlled. It doesn't bother my knees at all. And those are really tough poses. And that's the hardest yoga, as far as I'm concerned, is Bikram, or if you use Bikram yoga poses, or if you're using, what's the other one called? I forgot the name, but those two that are very tough, and they're all power poses. And, it's a lot of arm balances. But, the thing is, I think knowledge is power. I think I learned a lot from Health Tracks. I can write a book. Everything I learned about life, I learned in a sauna. No, seriously, people tell me things that have helped me I never would have realized. And they're pretty high level clientele there. I mean, but I learned stuff I learned one thing I got to tell you. I asked Chelsea, who's a born again Christian. She was swimming. I had rashes all over my body. I went to a dermatologist a few years ago. He gave me hydrocortisone. It was so bad this year that I swore I wasn't going to go into a chlorinated pool again. I asked Chelsea in the pool one night about 3 months ago. I said, Chelsea, what are those creams that you're using? She told me, these are the creams that I can swim with. I have no rashes. Ever since I used it, I haven't had one rash. Wow. Not one rash. And dermatologists don't even know about these things. I went to dermatologist. They said, I showed it to him. He says, I didn't know about any of this. And he used it there for 30 years in Norwich. He said, I didn't even know about these creams. I said, how can you not know about these creams? Seriously. It gets rid of the chlorine from your body. You put it on before you swim, and you put some on after you swim. Nice. Even if I don't use it for 2 days, it's not going to matter. I go into the shower. I put it on yesterday after 2 days after not using it. I didn't have but not one rash in that, whether it's a jacuzzi, concentrated chlorine, whether it's a pool with chlorine, whether it's a therapy pool, whether it's 75 degrees, 95, or 105, don't matter. And the dermatologist said to me, never, ever go into a whirlpool. It's concentrated chlorine. So I was scared the first time I went in Avon when this one was closed in Glastonbury. And I went in there and I was shocked that I didn't get a rash from it. So I think knowledge is power. And the stuff that we study in the Kabbalah class, you know more than most people. If you ask someone how you defeat God, they'll say, what? Lam Natzech Mizmor, you think anyone understands what that means? About 7, why we have 7. 7 is trying to transmute the sciences that God created, the math and science, into our own special system.
Our 7 chakras.
Well, look at the chakras, 7 chakras, right? And more important was what I want to leave you with tonight. More important than the chakras, actually, is when God created the world, God created 10 sefirot, right? We studied this with Jennifer. 10 sefirot, 3 spell Chet, Bet, Dalet, Chabad, Chachma, Bina, and Da'at. Those are the upper. And what are the lowest 7 ones? The 7 minor ones, which every one of us is part of that 7 sefirot that God created with. If you look at every one of us here, if you look chesed, kindness, go look at some of us here. Are we very kind? Go look at another one, netzach. Are people very attached to how they look? Or gvura? Are people attached to how strong they are? Tiferet, inner beauty. Are people, when God created the world and God created us, God created each of us using those 7 sefirot. So yes, 7 chakras, 7 sefirot, 7 candelabra. So I just want to point out 7 sciences and math. When God looks at 7, 7 is very magical. Do you understand now why 7 is so magical? 7 sefirot, 7. They borrowed the Indian system, chakras, from the 7 sefirot, by the way. So the 7 chakras, 7 sefirot, 7 candelabras, 7-day holidays, 7 days of the week. So in God's world, the luckiest number that God created was 7.
Holidays are 8 days.
Nope, that's in exile. We're in exile here, Sharon. In Israel, there's 7.
Ah,
Passover and
that's
Sukkot,
true.
7
Right.
holidays. We have an extra day here because we weren't sure when it started. So we keep that. You know, a lot of conservative reformative constructionists, they don't believe in that now. So they keep a 7-day holiday in this country. So, you know, most of the liberal do not keep the 8th day. So anyway, 7-day holidays.
Even
7
Hanukkah, they only celebrate 7 days?
No, Hanukkah is not from the Bible. Hanukkah is a man-made. Hanukkah is that's a holiday that was not from the Bible. It was rabbinic,
Okay.
right? The Hanukkah story happened way after the Torah. So 8 is 8 represents. You know why it's 8? 8 represents the infinity. When you think of Hanukkah, Chanuk Cafe, they rested and they got their strength. God created, through the infinite light of the menorah, God created a world with infinity. Why do we get a brit milah on the 8th day? You have to live for 7 days. The 8th day, in the infinite, you get circumcised. 8, look at the infinity symbol.
Right.
Go draw this.
It is.
Go look at Donna Eden's energy. Go look at her basic energy pattern of creation. She goes through this. She's not even Jewish. 8. All over the body, she does the 8 symbol, infinity. Okay, any questions or comments?
Before everyone goes, do you want to take a look at the flower options real quick?
Yeah.
Or at least
Sure.
what I've been able to narrow it down to.
Yeah, let's look at it. Yeah.
I had told Scott, if we can't find a plant, maybe it would be nice to find a bouquet that has all the colors from
Ooh,
the
that's
different levels of
beautiful.
worlds.
No, I think that's a great idea, Deanne. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, so I've got a couple of them here
You
going.
can always dry them and the colors will stay.
Mm,
Yeah, so that's the first one.
That's pretty.
that's really pretty.
I
No,
like
I still like the first one.
Me too.
Okay,
Nope, still like the first one.
First.
like the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like this one.
Nope, still like the first.
This is pretty with the pinks, but I think I like the first.
Yeah.
Because I like the yellows in the first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Nope. I think we made up our mind.
Yeah, I put them in order of
Favorite.
most color to least color.
yeah, I like the first. Can you put this first one up again?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Vibrant, springy,
I
Yep.
think
bunch
it's
of colors.
I think it's a done deal, Scott. This is
All
it.
right. Easy day then. It'll end up being less than $20 a person. So I'll let you
Okay.
know it.
Well,
I'll let
you'll
you know at the
probably-
next class.
If you get the exquisite, I don't know which one you're gonna get, but that
Yeah,
says that's the exquisite is 72, and you're probably gonna have a delivery fee of some sort.
Right.
know what?
So
It'll be
Yeah,
close to
I'll let you know how it is
$100.
in next class, or how much it is in next class, and we'll
I give
figure
you
it
money.
out then.
Leave the money
that's beautiful.
or
All right.
we're next for him. So
Yep, that's
Okay.
good.
I'll send them off to her.
Good job.
Thanks.
Yep.
thank you guys. So now
Yeah.
you know 7.
Happy Purim, everyone.
Yeah, you too.
Yes.
Hag
Happy-
Purim.
Hag
Yeah,
Purim.
Shabbat Shalom in advance. It's only Tuesday, but you know,
Yeah.
Tuesday is the luckiest day in the world, right? It says God said it was good twice on Tuesday, so I'm glad we have classes on Tuesday. It's very good to see you guys again and again. How beautiful is life to have you as part of my synagogue family and class. Really is such a beautiful thing, right, guys? It really is.
Yep.
It's great to see you guys. I love
Me
Tuesdays.
I do too. I look forward to it.
Instead of Tuesdays with Maury, we got Tuesdays with whatever.
And we don't even have to worry about the weather.
Yeah,
Right.
worry about the weather. Exactly.
All right. Good
All right,
night,
don't forget to
everyone.
send
Hey,
out a weekly.
everyone.
Yep, and not that weekly.
Good night.